Welcome to Fox Sports exclusive coverage of Round 6 of the 2018 IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship and the Mobil 1 Sports Car Grand Prix. Thank you for spending some time with us today. Brian Till, along with sports car experts Tommy Kendall and Calvin Fish. Jamie Howe and Justin Bell are down at pit lane. Now we are at the halfway point of the season this weekend, and things definitely beginning to heat up, and that is the summertime weather, competition on the racetrack, and I think some tempers as well, guys. But also a unique time, 4 races in 6 weeks, and starting last week at Watkins Glen, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park this weekend, Lime Rock Park and Road America. All iconic racetracks, all very unique in their own right. But Calvin, this is a special time in the championship, and this is definitely a special place.
This season is getting intense, Brian, and today we race on the WeatherTech Championship's fastest circuit. Yesterday in qualifying, Colin Brown's pole speed, the average, was not only faster than Watkins Glen, faster than Daytona. At these speeds, if you make a mistake, it will bite you in a heartbeat. Yet last year, Jordan Taylor, our overall and prototype leader, cutting his way through traffic. There's contact, and you can see the consequences there. A massive accident. But to be fast here, you have to put it on the line. You have to commit. One of our sports superstars, Elio Castro-Neves, he did that here on Friday, but he crossed the line, Tommy, and you can see he paid the price.
As Elio found out, this track does not care if you're a future Hall of Famer when it comes to punishing even small mistakes. This track can be terrifying and exhilarating. If you're not proper scared 4 times a lap, you're not going quick enough. And that's by yourself. Throw traffic in, mixed class racing, and has the potential for mayhem and also heroics, which we saw last week. Steven Simpson, I couldn't have picked him out of a lineup before last week. Now everybody is talking about the pass of the year. Who's going to step forward today? Well, all this is happening in the context of championship battles as well. Jamie?
Well, Tommy, it's not just the temperature and the tempers that are heating up. The point battles are almost at a full boil. In fact, only 1 point separates first and second in all 3 classes. In prototype, Philippe Albuquerque in the Mustang sampling Cadillac leads his Action Express teammates of Eric Kern and Felipe Nasser in the Wayland Engineering Cadillac. The qualifying did not go well for either, and they will start at the back of the prototype field. Qualifying also posed problems for our GTLM point leaders, Joey Hand and Dirk Mueller. Joey struggled with a suspension issue. It has been fixed, but he will start last in their class. Their 4 Chip Ganassi teammates, Richard Westbrook and Ryan Briscoe, they trail by just 1 point, but they did prove the pace of the car, and they line up in second. In GT Daytona, it is a battle of the brands, as Lamborghini, Acura, and Mercedes are the top 3 in points, with the Paul Miller Lamborghini duo of Brian Sellers and Madison Snow leading the Meyer-Shank Acura of Katherine Legge. Brian qualified 3rd behind a pair of Lexuses. So today, instead of playing catch-up Justin Bell, he has to think big picture.
Well, big picture is why all these fans are here. Now, you remember David and Goliath? The little guy takes on the big guy. It kind of worked out pretty well for him. Well, that is what Colin Braun in that number 54 Motorsport has done for the 2nd weekend in a row. Fastest lap ever round this incredible racetrack. But for tactical reasons, as you've heard, he has already gone to the back of the field to let John Bennett get in the car. Why even take the risk? Why push everything to the limit to be the fastest man around here? Well, all the way up and down here are mechanics and crew personnel who dedicate their lives 24/7 to making their individual car the fastest. And for Motorsport, for 24 hours, they were the best round here, and they could stand up straight and be very proud. That's the dream of everyone here. Also, #disruptor. When Colin gets back in the car, the big guys have better watch out.
That's a really good point, Justin, as the field is lined up and ready to go. Safety car, the pace car, that Corvette ZR1, about to pull in and off the racing circuit. We're going to go racing, but this is what has been left on the front row. Dane Cameron will start his Acura Penske on the pole now that the 54 is to the back, but just outside of him, another car that's not in the championship, and drivers with something to prove.
Yeah, and the team came off that brilliant victory, but it was the sister car. This time it's the 85, the banana boat, as we call it, alongside Dane Cameron, who will start this race from that pole spot. But Robert Alon, he has a lot to prove. He's in uncharted territory here, Tommy, starting from the front row.
This is going to be good. Cameron, slow off the last corner, jumps in the throttle pretty early, and off we go here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
Robert Alon there dropped a little bit. Renger van der Zandt has had a brilliant start there in the Konica Minolta entry number 10, sliding into the 2nd spot. Look at Alon and Bomarito side by side. That's about 140 miles an hour there.
Good stuff, and there's a look at the red 99 to the left of the screen, working past side by side, the Mazda, the 77 to the outside. That's the car that won the last time out at Watkins Glen. Misha Quickberg behind the wheel right now, but what a start for Dane Cameron. I think he really caught everybody napping coming off that last corner, jumped in the throttle, and really did what he needed to do early, and that was separate himself as they headed down into turn one.
Well, after a slow start to this season, Brian, I think Dane Cameron, Tommy, is finally finding his sweet spot. He's got confidence right now in that race car. The setup is working for him in Montoya.
There's a lot of storylines to follow. Montoya has not made friends in the last several weekends. They actually sat him out for 5 minutes in one of the practices because of an altercation with Bill Arberlin. These are all the kind of things when you have a team that come into play. So here we see the leader, Nick Tandy, out front in GTLM. Nice to see, or he's happy to see a little gap to that Core Autosport car in front.
Yeah, with John Bennett starting that car, Brian, it's always a bit of a concern for him to get those tires up to temperature. These Michelin runners, these GT Le Mans cars can come alive pretty quickly. So for Nick Tandy, it's a nice clean start, exactly what he was looking for after a brilliant pole position here yesterday.
It's kind of hard to believe that with 2 wins on the season for Porsche, one for the 911, one for the 912, they had not been quick enough in qualifying to have a pole yet this year. They've been on the front row. Tandy gives them their first pole, and this should be a good racetrack for the Porsche, I would think.
And you can tell just his enthusiasm. He was just buzzing after that lap yesterday, and I talked about there's 4 spots. We're coming up to one of them right now as you plunge down into turn 5. Car gets light, little quiet hands on the steering wheel before it compresses here into 5.
It's going to take some good luck and some good strategy, I would think, to win here. Going to be some keys that you need to make sure you keep in place.
Well, first to survive rush hour, Brian. Decisions in traffic will be pivotal today with a 3-class overlap. Well, it'll be intense. Pick your battles. If you're in the championship contention, don't get scrappy if you don't need to, and don't be foolish. Pit stop windows could be crucial today, depending on the timing of the yellows, as we saw last week at the Glen, Tommy. Montoya running out in the last corner.
Yeah, a lot of things that have to reveal themselves. We'll be watching on these first stops to see where the leaders are coming in. But the differences in between the P2 and the DPI cars, one of the areas is fuel. They're adjusting that as part of the BOP. Could be a major factor as we go along.
Looking down on that battle in GT Le Mans, the Porsche out in front of Nick Tandy, that yellow Corvette just behind the number 3, Jan Magnussen. Corvette racing, such a deep history here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, or if you're a longtime fan, Motorsport. But they have such a good reputation here. That Corvette always seems to work. They haven't had great pace. The 3 without any wins so far this year, but you never count Corvette out when you come to Canada.
They tend to make very few mistakes. They did get a little bit of help between Watkins Glen and here on the BOP, which has picked them up. They're right in the middle of the hunt here. Look, notice the gap back to GT Daytona, not very far back. I think it was just over 2 seconds difference between that class as the Lexuses run 1-2.
They're really quick here, Tommy. They expected a lot coming in, and they're certainly showcasing it right now. Brian Sellers, you can see in the back of the picture there, that red Lamborghini Huracan. He leads the championship, but by a single point. It's very intense, remarkable that all 3 classes, the championship leads just a single point as we hit the midway point in this season. These Lexus are really quick, and I think this is one of the stories we talked about. Don't get scrappy. For Brian Sellers, if that 14 car, for example, if he's in a battle with that, don't worry about it. They're way back in the points. Just focus big picture.
Real noteworthy, Ben Keating in that number 3 Mercedes AMG. Look at him in the stars and stripes, the blue car in the back of your picture, hanging on tight to the back of our championship leader, the gold driver. When Jerome Bleekemolen gets in this car, look out.
That car showed great pace just last weekend at Watkins Glen. Bleekemolen was skiving his way through the field, got a penalty, had to fight through that and come back. But I think they're definitely the dark horse for a win here today.
I think it's one of those deals when you look at the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship schedule, you see very different types of racetracks, and you know that your car is going to shine on some and not shine nearly as well on others. Seems like these long, high-speed flowing racetracks, the Mercedes really takes a liking to. Right now, Dane Cameron liking what he's seeing out the windscreen of his Acura DPI, and that is absolutely nothing. Clear racetrack. Guaranteed he will be catching soon. It's the ISMA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. You look down on one of the most challenging racetracks in all of North America and perhaps even the world over. It's Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Absolutely gorgeous day here in Bowmanville, Ontario, Canada. When we talk about how daunting this racetrack is, let's have Ford and Calvin take us around.
Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, Brian, is old school, crazy fast, and not for the faint of heart. Just under 2.5 miles with 10 turns, where a mistake will typically have big consequences. It gets your attention immediately as you sweep downhill into turn 1, and then the intensity just ramps up from there. Turn 2 is a blind entry and possibly the most demanding corner in North America. Speeds about 150 miles an hour in a prototype in qualifying. A key corner is turn 5. Even though it's slow, you got to get through there efficiently. Good exit speed on the Mario Andretti straightaway. The lap finishes with a really fast sweeping turn 8, then through the S's to complete the lap. And then that roller coaster ride starts once again.
Of all the racetracks in North America that you've raced on, Tommy, where does it rank?
I mean, in terms of exhilaration and, terror, it's right up there. I was scared of, but lived for throwing stickers on at the end of a test day or for qualifying and see how much speed you could wring out of it. Turn 1, 2, down into 4, and 8 were all hair-raising.
Dane Cameron already working past GT Daytona traffic. In fact, he just went past Brian Sellers, who's third in class. Shows you just how great the speed differential is between the 3 classes, the prototype that Dane Cameron is running, and then GT Daytona, which in air quotes is the slowest class out there, but still incredibly quickly. You see how quickly Dane Cameron works around that Lexus just in front. He's got 1 more to go, and he will have lapped the GT Daytona field.
There was a good example of the kind of split-second decision. If he'd been a little further on, he might have tried to go around the outside of the Lexus in the second part of 2. Instead, he cracked the throttle, probably brushed the brake, and tucked back underneath, knowing that Lexus was not going to be able to hold his car in tight.
And you look back, and now you ride on board with Ringer van der Zande in the number 10, the Cadillac, from Konica Minolta, Wayne Taylor Racing, and it shows just what the traffic will do to you. And I would think you just have to stay calm. You're going to lose a little bit at times. You're going to gain some. You can't get upset when you see that loss.
Well, here's the thing. You cannot afford to not be patient in traffic, but the quandary is you cannot afford to be patient either. It's a real knife edge, and you're not going to be right all the time. You got to just do your best shot to guess.
And you just find a rhythm, and we were only 8 laps into this race when he'd lapped the entire GTD field, our leader, Dane Cameron. So that's how quickly he's coming up on you, and that's just going to stay there all day long, other than a reset where you're leading the field back to green.
Been talking to some of the drivers this week, an interesting point's been brought up. Tommy, you mentioned it, that coexisted between the prototypes and the GT cars, and some of the GT drivers feel that there's a whole nother class of prototype drivers who have also done some GT racing. So a guy like Dane Cameron, who we just watched make those moves, he's raced in GT cars, he's won championships in GT cars, he knows what they're dealing with. Another example would be the Taylor brothers, either one of them, even Steven Simpson, he does some touring car and GT driving. It gives them a whole nother perspective and a whole nother level of respect. Just interesting to watch the guys who haven't driven in GT.
Well, it's such a valid point because those guys are racing at 100% of their car's capability too. As we always say, they can't just disappear. They can't pull offline if they're at the limit where they are.
Well, and what Jamie's kind of alluding to, there's a relatively big story developing behind the scenes, and it circles, earlier it circled around Elio and Montoya. They've never raced in multi-class racing. They've never had to deal with this give and take. Montoya isn't the kind of guy, I call him the honey badgers because he doesn't care. And so there's been some stuff brewing and festering, and he doesn't see why that should be his problem. But where it's starting to come up is they realize they can impact your season, and up until now, he hasn't been getting the message. We'll see how that works with that 5-minute penalty. And now the consequences here aren't just a messed up race. It's risky and dangerous as well.
Well, the other thing is they've got to be factoring in is like Dane Cameron and Montoya are on a roll right now. 3 podiums in a row. They haven't had a win yet, but they're leading here today. They're climbing their way back into championship contention after a very dismal start to their championship season. If they get back in that points battle, Brian, they cannot afford for Juan Pablo to suddenly get a drive-through penalty at a critical phase in a race and drop 10 points. So you've got to be on top of that. You cannot afford to let that stymie your championship season.
Well, I think the other thing you have to be aware of, too, is there are 31 cars on the racetrack. You're racing not only the competitors in your class, but you're trying to work through competitors in 2 other classes. You don't make friends in those other classes, you may not get through at a critical time.
Now, in Montoya's defense, he carries himself a certain way. He's very brusque, very much like Raikkonen. But if you look at his results, he's won the Rolex 24. So he knows how to judge risk reward. And so, but this new deal with the multi-class and the season-long championship is something he's probably trying to wrap his arms around.
See Montoya there on the back bench right now, just watching the progress of his teammate Kyle Moyer on the left side of the box as we look at it, calling the strategy here. And this is a team that is definitely showing the pace now to grab victories. Haven't quite executed yet with the 6 car. The 7 car got that brilliant victory, of course, at Mid-Ohio and broke their duck, so to speak, but they got the pace every week, it seems.
Looking back down the front straightaway. You see one of the Acuras flash by. There it is. It's the 86, and right now behind the wheel, Alvaro Parent. He'd shown well back in the class right now. They really need to move forward. Remember his teammate Katherine Legge, second in the championship. They need a good result here.
Well, they do, and it's ironic that, you know, that's a team that wasn't expected to do the full championship season, but they kept grabbing results. They got that win at Detroit, and suddenly they're right in the thick of the battle, so they have to keep pushing. Unfortunately for Alvaro, he had a commitment over in Europe. He had to skip the event at Watkins Glen. Has now got he and Katherine split in the points, but he's going to do his job. I think he can do the rest of the championship season if the car competes and just support Katherine on her way to trying to steal this title away from Brian Sellers and Madison Snow.
Sixth right now in GT Daytona, just in front, the number 16 of Michael Shine. And Shine, great to see him in the series as well. He came in with Wright Motorsports several races into it. He and Wolf Hensler in that 16 car, and that should be a great pairing for the rest of the year. Problem for Alvaro right now is that there's a Porsche in front of him that doesn't factor into the championship.
And a heck of a run for Mike Shine. I mean, again, much like Ben Keating, he's a name we're not as familiar with, but a true gentleman driver, and is mixing it up there with some of the factory guys at a very, very tough track.
Yeah, he's a really quick young kid, and watched him in World Challenge competition. Many victories in the GTA class there last year. And for Alvaro, he also won here earlier this season, so he's seen victory lane before, but it looks like they're a little bit deeper in the pack than they'd like to be.
It's an interesting approach Mike Shine has taken to learning not only the series but the racetracks. A lot of times when we see partial seasons, we'll see drivers hop in to do the endurance races, but when you look at the cost of a championship, those are the most expensive ones. The races are longer, you burn through more fuel, you burn through more tires. So what he's doing instead this season is learning it by doing just the quick races, the 2 hour and 40-minute sprint races. So he and Wolf Hensler teaming up for all of those. They will not be at Petit Le Mans at the end of the season, and Wolf does have a commitment with the VIR round, so they're looking for a co-driver for that. But it's a different approach. He's committed to learning. He wants to do a full season. Just going to see how this one goes.
And he is, as Calvin said, he is wickedly fast in that Porsche. He's a very talented driver. As you saw, that bright yellow number 4 of Oliver Gavin under attack by the prototypes that are around him, and just behind him, Jesse Krohn in the number 24 BMW. And I think part of that traffic allowed Krohn to really close in on the back wing of that Corvette.
Yeah, BMW certainly had a couple of races here, Tommy, though, where they haven't been in the meat of the GT Le Mans battle, and it's a constant evolution with a new car that they're debuting here this year with this M8 platform. And it's had some races where it was strong, and then the last couple, they made a slight adjustment with the balance of performance in terms of turbo boost for this weekend. They're a little bit closer, but not right there in the fight for the lead, but hanging on to one of those Corvettes right now.
You're right on board with Alexander Sims in his BMW. Winless so far this year, but certainly stood on the top step last year. Can BMW perhaps return to the top step and claim a victory here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park? Stay with us and find out. Back at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, looking down on the field, and one of the Acuras is in, and I believe it's the number 7.
Yeah, this could be a strategy call. We understand the 16 car might be on the side of the road if they catch a yellow. And I think what they may be doing here, Tom, is just playing the strategy game on fuel. Just trying to roll the dice a little bit. There's that 16 machine.
16 off. Do they think there's going to potentially be a yellow, so they're going to dive in and get it done?
Well, that's what they're doing, Brian, because these Acuras are only going about 40 minutes or so, Jamie.
Yeah, they'd also did a driver change. So Ricky Taylor climbed into the car. Castroneves out. The 31 machine also ducked to pit lane. Those two cars taking on the same pit lane strategy. We're getting a couple GT cars in as well.
See, Helio Castroneves out, kind of shaking his head. He's not in the car for very long. It's a 2 hour and 40-minute race. 2:20 still to go.
Joey Hand jumping into, had poor track position. This is what you got to do. You got to roll the dice a little bit. The problem by doing this, when they stack back up, Joey may have to cut his way through some GTD traffic unless some of those guys hit pit lane as well. There's a class split. For the prototypes, it's easier, Tommy, because the prototypes go back to the front of the pack. For the GT Le Mans, they stay in a mix with the GTD cars.
It's not as clear cut. It's a little bit like in poker. It depends on the cards that come next in terms of whether it's a good call or not. Now the yellow is out.
So full course caution is out. Helio Castroneves out of the 7. And with all the things that Castroneves has done in his driving career and all the racetracks he's ever run on, oddly enough, he's never run here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
Probably never been scared like he has.
One of the big stars of this year's IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, of course, is our rookie in the house, Helio Castroneves. Helio, you have 20 points out of the top place in the standings, but you're coming to a track you've never been to. This is really a rookie move.
It's definitely a first time for everything, and Motorsport is, I heard a lot about it, but this is going to be the first time of driving this place, and TV does not do justice. How steep, special turn 2, and then you're going to turn 5. It is absolutely a roller coaster here, so it will be quite interesting to learn, and I'm excited. I'm trusting Allison and Acura Team Penske that the car is going to be on point, and hopefully we won't have any issue.
But you're enjoying IMSA so far, right? It is the new home for Helio Castroneves, and we love you here.
Oh man, this is absolutely amazing. One driver told me before when I was in IndyCar, oh, you're going to be so more relaxed. I don't know what he's talking about, because every time I'm out there, it's like flat out all the time, pushing to the limit. So it's really, really fun. It's absolutely amazing, and I'm really happy to be here.
Well, I know all the IMSA fans definitely support me in this. Continental Tire celebrates you, Helio Castroneves.
Certainly great to have him in the series, and there's Castroneves back on the box with the headset on. He'll be talking to Ricky Taylor. How did his first visit to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park go? Well, Friday didn't work out very well.
Yeah, we talked about putting it all on the line and committing. Well, Helio had a little moment in this corner just the lap before, and he just gets it a little bit wrong over the bump in turn 4, loses the rear end, tries to catch it. Major rear end damage, didn't get in the chassis, Tommy, fortunately, but big repair for the Penske team that night.
And coming here for the first time in a car that fast is a pretty big ask. They have simulators and all that, but it's not quite the same when you got the pucker factor going.
Well, and you heard Castroneves say, television does not do it justice. You can see the up and down, but you can't feel the compression and the G loads. And as we said, it is a very daunting 2.5-mile ribbon of asphalt. There's more coming your way. Stay with us. Under full course caution for the first time here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Mobil 1 Sports Car Grand Prix out in front right now. The 01 Corvette. Tim Rose behind the wheel, a Bondurant instructor. And it's great to have very, very talented guys in that safety car leading this pack around. See the 15 of Jack Hawksworth there in line, and you can tell how jumbled up things get, and that's why they'll move the cars around with the wave bys and the pass arounds to get the field sorted back out before we go back to green.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, strategy-wise, Dane Cameron has stayed out, and we're 27 minutes into this run right now. Some of it's yellow, but again, you know, we've seen this team, Tommy, without pointing any fingers. I mean, they've been in position, but this is another crucial call. A lot of the other prototype runners came in on the lap before where it was open for prototype cars to pit.
Now, it was not, he was past the pit in. He couldn't have done what the 7 did and gotten in before it closed, but he could have come in on the first lap.
Absolutely.
It's a puzzler why he stayed out.
I think it's difficult on this racetrack. You go through turns 8 and 9, and you're trying to look up and find that light that says pit lane is open or closed. We had a couple of guys dive in and were ruled that they came into a closed pit and just had to drive on through.
Big call here for our championship leaders, bringing Brian Sellers in, fresh set of Continental tires going on, top him up with fuel. The Lexus stayed out. 58 came in as well at worst track position, so that was a no-brainer. So this is going to be a critical call, and these are the big decisions you have to make. You're in this championship hunt, you're leading, and these are critical calls when you get a yellow at this timing in the race.
See the 58 in as well. So much going on pit lane. The other thing going on pit lane this weekend is there's a movie being made. If you read the book, The Art of Racing in the Rain by Garth Stein, well, Patrick Dempsey has bought the rights to that, and they're making a movie, and it's being filmed here with the help of IMSA. It's some great stuff going on. We'll take you a little bit behind the scenes on what some of the things that are happening this weekend.
3, 2, 1, action, action, action.
Well, my job as a producer is really to support the team around me. Once I decide who's on the team, it's what do you do to set them up to succeed? So, no, it's like Jeff has a clear vision. Our director, Simon Curtis, has a clear vision, and what can we do to make sure that that gets on screen?
And I think for me, it also adds extra pressure. You know, you're shooting something for Patrick. You have to kind of up your game, you know. And I always feel like, you know, certainly in racing, I'm shooting for my peers, you know, so therefore I got to be a little up the level and be something that those guys will go, whoa, you know, that was really a good insight into our world.
Yeah, for me too, I have a certain responsibility to take care of the series, the drivers and the teams and the manufacturers, and to depict this in a way that they're going to be proud of. At the same time, servicing the story. So it's actually a new muscle to be flexing, and I'm really enjoying it. Although I'd like to be in the car, too. Tremendous support up here with the track and with IMSA and the teams. Turner, Wright, you know, and the WeatherTech guys here have been really wonderful. And just the spirit within the community is something that I've always really appreciated and liked the most, is the camaraderie. And it's nice to be able to get this movie up and running and getting everybody, because they're all our friends. So to be able to work with them and their enthusiasm and ours has been really quite satisfying.
Milo Ventimiglia playing the part of Denny Swift, who's the main character. Maybe he's not the main character. Maybe Enzo's the main character.
Yeah, we don't want to spoil too much about it. It's told through the eyes of a dog named Enzo. And I actually met the real-life person, a guy named Kevin York, who is the real-life person that this book and movie are based on. I resisted reading the book because I'm like, I don't want to read a book about that someone that's done a little racing is trying to capture it. I finally read it. I couldn't put it down. They did an amazing job of rendering the racing stuff as well. Speaking of amazing job of racing stuff, we have a royalty, Motorsport royalty, standing by with Justin.
Motorsport royalty, but once upon a time, a dueling competitor, well, to me and definitely to you, Tommy. I thought it'd be a fun thing to do. Tommy Kendall is in the booth. I'm here with Ron Fellows. And I have the microphone. So Tommy wanted to just like reflect. You've known each other going back 30 years.
Yes. Wow. 30 is it? TK, you don't mind if we talk about 30 years? Yeah, that's.
Let's do it.
That's, yeah. 30 years. That's a big number.
It is, and of course we're here celebrating 20 years of Corvettes racing. It's been a formidable sort of 2 decades. You've been very much involved. What does it feel like for you standing back, seeing all these, well, some of them young whippersnappers now driving the car in the seat you used to occupy?
No, you know what? It's awesome to continue to be part of the Corvette racing program, and it is hard to believe it's been 20 years. But these guys are doing a great job, and this track is so much fun. That's the part I miss is getting on track and getting into the competition against guys like TK and yourself. So
when it's about to go green, you must be happy with the way the track under your governance has gone.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. You know, this is the 14th year of Mobil One as the sponsor for this event here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. So we're thrilled and perfect weather. Thanks to all you guys for coming out and doing a great job.
Say green, green, green.
Green, green, green.
And we are going back green, green, green. The car's still in front. Dane Cameron in that accurate, but look at the battle behind the 31, really putting pressure on the 99 just in front. Misha Goikhberg in the Red Dragon, second right there on the car, very loose off the corner.
Well, Dane Cameron has got to go, go, go. It's green, green, green. Look at this side by side. Jordan Taylor around the outside. What a move there.
It's not over yet.
Actually, there's Renger van der Zandt. I thought there was a driver change on the 10 team, maybe they just got inside the cockpit and didn't do a change. But either way, it's a fascinating battle here between the Cadillacs.
And you look at the 31 and the 5, both cars out of the Action Express stables. They did not qualify well. They qualified at the back of the prototype category. The 31 won here last year.
And the year before.
Yeah, and they just didn't have the pace. But right now, Renger van der Zandt in that black number 10 really putting the pressure on Misha Goikhberg.
And Goikhberg stayed in the car as well. You saw what a run that Renger got off there. He's trying to tuck into the draft with the faster P2 car, better straightaway speed. And you mentioned Dane Cameron needs to make time because it's looking to us like that was a mistake not having him pit under that yellow. And now he needs to build again.
Oh, big wiggle, big wiggle. Goikhberg just trying to hang on right there. You got to wonder if they were double stinting tires like they did at Watkins Glen, and Goikhberg just doesn't have the grip right now.
Now, all the talk about at the Glen was about Steven Simpson and his move, but Misha Goikhberg is a true silver driver that won a prototype race by pushing hard, driving hard, and he's not as quick as his teammate, but he does. Look at this, doing a good job holding these guys off.
Well, the driver right behind him, Felipe Nasr, Formula One experience, and has driven just about everything on the planet. Obviously, a very talented race car driver, a platinum-rated driver, and he is putting all kinds of pressure on Goikhberg.
And I'll tell you what, for Ring of Van der Zande, he realizes there's a potential victory on the line here because he sees that man up ahead of him, Dane Cameron. Well, Dane Cameron has a 3-second lead, but he's got very little fuel on board. Really, Tommy, if you think about this strategy, why would you do this? Because if I'm Dane Cameron, it's almost like starting the race with a third of a tank full of fuel and use tires. You wouldn't do that. Why would you set yourself up to be in this position, even though we're only a few minutes into this race?
Well, unless they're confident, there's no way they could be confident. There's going to be a ton of yellow that's going to allow them to make up that stop. You wouldn't do it. We'll have to see how it plays out, but the ends don't meet for me.
And with the rules this year, before, if the 58 car, the sister Wright Motorsport entry in problems. Look at that. Look at all the mud up against the wall. Is the car damaged? That's coming off the
5.
Same corner, right?
Yep.
Is where Shine was in trouble.
You can see the marks. Looks like the back stepped out and then hooked it to the left.
Just getting back to the Cameron situation, Brian, excuse me. With the new rules this year, before, if you stayed out and the other prototypes pitted, they could be buried in GT cars, which would go to full course yellow. This year, right before the green, all the prototypes come back to the front of the pack. So you got the guys behind you with fresh tires, full of fuel, sitting right behind you as you go back to green.
Yeah, and you are a sitting duck. We saw Misha Goikhberg struggle a little bit. So is that contact between the two team cars?
And that's the 2-time defending GTD champion, Christina Nielsen.
She did make contact with the wall.
Wasn't hard.
No.
But she might be stuck.
Yeah, it could
Looks
be stuck.
wet.
It's thick mud there. And the reason that there weren't any driver changes in GTD, there's a minimum drive time of 45 minutes. So anyone who pitted did stay in the car.
Michael Shine still behind the wheel of the 16, the sister Wright Motorsport entry, but it looks like perhaps teammates get together.
2 wrongs don't make a right. 2 rights make a yellow.
Yeah, we're going to write that one down. Tommy Kendall is on it today.
My first interaction with IMSA was life-changing. I was a 13-year-old. The first race was Sears Point, 1981. So I flew up with my dad to watch the IMSA race. You know, if you think about set the stage back then, you know, there was 3 TV channels. There was maybe 2 races a year on TV and some magazines that came out once a month. I literally didn't really know racing existed at that point. And so I go to this race and my mind was blown, you know. And I didn't know this world existed at all. And so my life was changed from that point on.
Kind of a lifetime effect on you there, TK.
Definite left turn, altered trajectory. You know, I feel fortunate to have been exposed to it, and then also have grown up and played a part in the 50 years. It's hard to believe how it's turned out, and I'm still enjoying it. I'm now in the fan role, I guess, as a commentator, but mostly fan role back like the wide-eyed kid, and it's good times for IMSA.
It's hard to believe. 50 years next year, be the 50th anniversary.
Yeah, and John Bishop, I mean, what foresight and vision to create this, and we're going to celebrate that all next year. And we're going to go down back to what's happening this year. We're going to, never mind, head fake. We were going to go to the pits, but we're going to watch these cars go green again and see if Penske can make that new strategy work.
Yeah, well, good luck. I tell you what, he's got to be getting really close to being out of fuel. He'll try and gap a little bit if he's got anything left. You might as well roll the dice as far as they'll go right now.
Porsche with a good run here in GT Le Mans, and there's some Porsche news and notes for you. The milestone wins for Porsche here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Obviously a pretty good history.
Another big bit of news for one of our Porsche competitors, Patrick Long's non-day job is the creator of Luftkults, and they're going to do their first event outside of the U.S. as the green flag flies.
Dane Cameron still out in front, and that's really not what you expected to see. He could pit under this full course caution because it was within 15 minutes of the previous one, so pits remain closed.
Look at Ricky Taylor,
yellow.
big move around the outside of the 55 machine of Bomarito.
You saw how close that was as the 55 was using up road on the exit too. Cold tires.
On board with Jonathan Bomarito and his Mazda, his teammate just behind him.
The good news for Cameron is he's lighter than everyone else.
You got to find positives in it, right?
Kind of feel.
What kind of a glasses of 16th full kind of guy today are you, Calvin?
You ride on board with the Mazdas and you look at them up in the top of the screen there as they give chase to the Acura in front. Let's head down to pit lane with our Mazda driver spotlight. and Jamie Howe.
Another name we haven't been so familiar with up until this year is Harry Tincknell. He shares the number 55. And Harry, you've won at Le Mans. You've won the European Le Mans Championship in a P2 car. But the only IMSA track you had been to before this year was Daytona. How do you prepare for a circuit like Canadian Tire Motorsports Park with so much risk involved?
Oh, honestly, I'm so lucky to be able to do a dual program this year, World Endurance Championship, and also in IMSA with Mazda. So, yeah, every single track I come to is new this season. It's like going back to when I first started, when I was in Formula Renault, and every time you go to a new place, you've never driven there before. So, back to like the old days, shall I say, and learning from Jonathan Bomarito and Tristan Nunez and the guys in the Mazda team have so much experience. But yeah, this place is incredible. I mean, for any of the fans that know Thruxton in the UK, it's like Thruxton on steroids, just absolutely huge elevations, really, really high speed, massive commitment, but loving every second of it. And I'm picturing myself this whole year that I get to do race on both sides of the Atlantic.
That smile, guys, it says that I think he likes his job. Justin Bell?
Well, you know when a rock band gets their breakout album, but they've actually been recording for a decade? It's a bit like Stephen Simpson's story. Hey, we want to see your eyes under there. This is Stephen Simpson, the superstar who helped win last weekend at Watkins Glen. You have been literally an overnight success in terms of the fans seeing you here. What's it like to be running out the front with your name known to the world of IMSA so suddenly?
You know, Justin, it was just so great getting Gainsco Auto Insurance back into victory lane and getting our JDC Miller Motorsports team first overall victory. So, you know, it was a great week and a great race day last Sunday. And yeah, I've been around a while. It's just, I suppose I need to make big moves like that to get really noticed.
Yeah, big moves. The fans love them. The broadcasters, you have new fans amongst all of us in the booth. How are you going to parlay that into this weekend? Because very much a team sport. You and your teammate have got to do it, but there's some pretty stiff opposition out there.
Yes, very stiff opposition. And, you know, Friday and Saturday was a bit tricky for us. But today in warm-up, I think we hit a bit of a sweet spot with the setup. So guys made a great strategy call earlier on, and I just want to get back in and get after it.
There you are, face behind the name, guys.
Face behind the name, and we've seen performances by Stephen Simpson before in other classes, but to see him run up front, to see him take the victory, I mean, he had a stunning run at Watkins Glen last year and then did one better and took the victory this year. But one of the things that happened while Justin was down there was that the 6 did indeed finally pit. Looks like they've gotten out. Or did they not pit, or did he have a problem? Or timing and scoring cycling through and got caught out by that, because all of a sudden timing and scoring had him in the lead, and then timing and scoring had him in 12th position. So sorry about that.
GT Le Mans, you can see the leader, Jesse Krohn, has not made a pit stop. But Joey Hand was up to second. Remember, they dove the 66 car in before that yellow. He had good track position. And Joey must have had an issue on the restart, because suddenly when we had the second caution, he was buried back deep in the pack. So I'm not sure one of the Porsches made a move on him or not, but suddenly he lost the good track position and the strategy that they had employed.
Now with the longer stint length, it has a better chance of working out for the BMW than it does for Dane Cameron. Still a stretch. You need a lot of yellow to make, and it looks like Rahal Letterman, Lanigan have split their strategy. The 24 is out front, 25 stopped.
Jesse Krohn really came on the scene in GTD in the BMW last year for Turner Motorsport. Kind of showed everybody what he could do and what he was capable of, and I think BMW really looked at that and said, all right, we're going to do you one better, and we'll move you up into GT Le Mans.
Well, that's how it works in these factory programs. Junior guys get a shot in maybe a customer program, get the attention of the big dogs, and get moved into the full factory effort after that.
Yeah, they're very high on him. He had a couple of brilliant runs with Jens Klingman in the GTD Turner car, Brian, and certainly got their attention. I think there's a good fit. 2 young drivers, he and John Edwards, are really going to be a great driver pairing for BMW.
Riding on board right now, the 67. Ryan Briscoe now in front of his teammate, I believe, in the 66, if you can believe timing and scoring. It caught me out a few moments ago, so I'm not sure I trust it right now. But Dane Cameron and his Acura is indeed still out in front. When will they come to pit lane? Join us and find out. Ride with Andy Lally and his Magnus Racing Audi R8 just in front, the 93, the Acura of Justin Marks in front. That's the battle in GT Daytona, a little bit further back in the field, but pit stop's able to be done now. Minimum driver time is up in GT Daytona, and the 6 has finally come to pit road.
Yeah, the problem is they're going to need, they can't do it on 2 stops still. Do you know what I mean? You're going to need that 3rd stop to get to the finish. So you just got to deal with it. If you make a little error here, you just got to play it forward. And JB, let's see what happens on this stop.
So the 6 hits their spot. Literally, I saw them bleeding the tires. These are scrubbed Continentals going on the car. Obviously, that's one of the ways they bed the tires in, especially for high-speed circuits like this, with the available allocated sets they have. Montoya's still up on the box. Just did a tear off there, checking the front grille, making sure all the air intake's there. The car's looking very clean. Ready for a normal scheduled stop. As you said, fuel will be critical for this team throughout the race. Jamie?
It's the same critical stop for the number 14 Lexus. They did do a driver change. Dominic Baumann out of the car, Kyle Marcelli in. They waited on 4 Continentals. They also did the fuel, but then they had the passenger side door open, so he's been sitting here waiting for several seconds, using valuable track time. Finally got the car refired, but it was not a quick pit stop for the 14 who came in second in class.
Won't be there on the way out. As you said, the problems, that took a while, and then a little stall as he tried to get the car moving.
Oh, this is not good news. The Nissan team been having major engine issues, blew up some motors at the last round of the championship, to the point, Tommy, they didn't have 2 motors to bring here and compete with both entries. Had to consolidate down into 1 car with Ryan Dial and Pippo Durrani sharing the driver car. Look at this, the 2 Porsches really putting the pressure on that BMW as they head down through turn 4. About 140 miles an hour, even for the GT Le Mans machines, as they swoop down that hill. Really high-speed section of the racetrack.
Now onto the back straightaway. That battle in GT Le Mans continues as the number 15 in GT Daytona is in.
The driver change already happened. David Heinemeier Hansen now getting his belts done. They took Continental Tires fuel. I was talking to David. He said they did something different this weekend. They put all the fast bits on. They really tightened up the aero for qualifying just to get a good track position. They did that. That was a very clean driver change. But given the Pro-Am lineup situation in GT Daytona, they will be doing another driver change. So Jack Hawksworth will be finishing the race as he started it also.
I think that's a good strategy call. It's not that hot today. I don't think the drivers will be worn out, but this racetrack is very physical, and certainly you're going to put your fastest driver in at the end, and that gives them a good opportunity to have a good finish here.
Well, that gives the team and the brand that limelight of showing that they're quick by qualifying both cars on the front row. Then you have your more experienced guy deal with the start, the anxiety, the pressure of that situation, try and create a gap, get your Silver, your Pro-Am guy in, knock out his drive time of 45 minutes, and then get your fast guy back in for the finish. I like it.
Well, and you hold the track position early on. He pitted from the lead.
Right.
And so now Heinemeier Hansen, with the cars spread out, maybe he loses a few positions, but not like maybe he would at the start. So it's an interesting approach. Some people say, let's get the Silver in and out as quickly as we can. They've taken a different approach. You've got 2 driver changes, which adds a little bit of execution risk to that second pit stop.
You talked about traffic at the beginning of the program, and there it is. Prototypes, GT Le Mans, GT Daytona, all right there, coming off of turns 5 and 6, and it just shows you the speed differential and how much attention you have to be paying. At the back of the shot there, the 96, the Turner Motorsport BMW, the winner last weekend at Watkins Glen in the 6-hour.
Yeah, we talked about it as one of the keys to victory, Brian. Dealing with rush hour traffic, the 3-class overlap here is huge in terms of where you hit that traffic around the racetrack. And look at this. It is literally like being on the freeway at rush hour as you come down there. Look at that.
But now he's boxed.
Oh, and that's Ricky Taylor in the white Acura, and he's going to get picked by the GT LM car.
And he loses the spot to the Mazda.
Yeah, he did.
He just had to. You just have to give it up. Swallow your poison. If you've made a mistake there, you just got to deal with it, Tommy. You can't fight back. If you get too aggressive, there'll be contact, and at these speeds, we've seen before. There's just huge consequences at this racetrack.
Well, and I was going to say, when we say old school, that really is what it is, isn't it? It's consequences. If you have a problem here, there is going to be something big that happens.
Well, we've been discussing all week long, Brian, about how we saw the intensity at Watkins Glen. At Watkins Glen, there's a little bit more of a buffer. There's a bit more of a safety zone, a comfort zone to get away with some of those moves. You can't do that here, Tommy. It will bite you.
You can't do that here, but also you have the added urgency of it being a shorter race, so you don't have time to work yourself out of a jam. So that was a case where Taylor saw an opportunity where Goikhberg got held up, and he made it work on the outside, and then he got trapped behind the Ford GT, and then you had two cars go Buffalo Boy around the outside of him on the next corner.
Well, he obviously has a good car underneath him. We saw him go on the high side or the outside of turn 2 just a few laps before that, so he believes that he can run out there. The only problem was he had that slower GT Le Mans traffic in front and just got picked.
Well, JB related to David and Goliath. We've got David behind the wheel of that number 54 machine, Colin Brown, the little team that can. Brilliant qualifying run for that group yesterday. Of course, Core Autosport not only campaigned this number 54 prototype car that had the fastest time in qualifying, also the Porsche team that they run, the factory Porsche, so it was a big day for that group.
Into turn 5, look at the 55 contact with the 99.
Yep.
And it just gets so stacked up there. There's an elevation change, a little bit of loss of grip as you come over the plateau. And perhaps that caught Bomarito out just a little bit. Jonathan Bomarito in the 55, just that light contact with the 99. 86 is in, Justin.
Well, yeah, obviously out of sequence on these two Acura Motorsports Michael Shank cars. They've had a tough weekend. The cars just haven't had the outright pace. They've just made a suspension adjustment on the front right spring there, guys. The mechanic leaned in, and I don't know quite what he could have done there. Maybe at a rebound, a change on the right front spring. But remember, such high speeds, and these cars are so sensitive now that any change will make a difference. But that was a good stop for them. No driver change, just a change of water bottle, fuel, and tires.
Yeah, and there's also an adjustment under the left rear corner as well. Possibly a shock absorber canister change or something like that, maybe a roll bar setting, but either way, they're trying to dial that 86 car in to get it into its sweet spot for these race conditions here today. Very different strategies. We saw the 48 car that they're chasing in the points, make that earlier pit stop. Sellers has now cycled to the front once again in GTD.
You rode on board with Lawrence Vantor there, and it gave you an idea of what the traffic he was having to deal with as he closed in on GTD cars and as prototypes closed in on him. And there's another long shot, and you can tell just how busy it is. It's going to take several laps to get things settled down.
The speeds here, the prototypes are almost at 180 as you crest the hill there for turn 8. GT Le Mans about 10 miles an hour slower. GTD's in a similar range to the GT Le Mans cars, so it is high speed stakes around this awesome race circuit.
I think settled down is going to be a relative term. I think it's just going to be this energy that's going to be running throughout.
On board the 25, Alexander Sims a little bit further back in the GT Le Mans category. It's Nick Tandy and his Porsche that runs out in front of GT Le Mans. Ringer van de Zande with the overall lead in the number 10 for Konica Minolta. And Brian Sellers leads in GT Daytona from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Looking down the Mario Andretti straightaway here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and there's the first of the two Corvettes, that bright yellow number 3. They had been running nose to tail, but we talked about what traffic does to you and can do for you here at this racetrack. Take a look at this.
Look at this stack up here coming off the final corner. There's Joey Hand in the number 6 inside Ollie Gavin. They go side by side down into turn 1. Really close, giving each other just enough racing room and enough racing respect to make it work.
Ollie tried to hang on the outside, but couldn't quite do it.
And it was all set up by the 33. Jerome Bleekemolen, the slower GTD Mercedes, kind of held them up at the apex of turn 10.
And Ollie doesn't give up. Look, he's trying to keep it there, but he has to crack the throttle here because he's running out of road on the exit. And then now watch the prototype book around the outside of all that.
So that's on board with Bleekemolen. You can see he kind of gets held up. Actually, a little contact with Gavin.
Yeah, there was a little contact. I think that's what kind of stymied Ollie's acceleration off that corner. Joey gets to the inside, and then Ollie's out in the gray a little bit.
You pick up some banking there when you're tight to the apex curve, and here comes an Acura on the outside. Imagine how hard it would be to keep track, and that's where spotters come into play, where they're in that middle of that battle and then say, hey, guy coming on the outside.
But that's no different to the scenario we saw last year with Jordan Taylor with 20 minutes to go. Yep. He's making a move around the outside admittedly in turn 4 in contact with one of the Corvettes with Tommy Milner behind the wheel. So you're going to play these games throughout the course of the race, and it's going to get tighter. It's going to intensify as this race gets down to the wire.
Fatigue plays a role in that as well.
See this train of prototypes heading down through turn 4, led by Misha Goikberg in the 99. The Red Dragon, as we fondly refer to it, and it's good to see Gainesco back on the side of a prototype, especially one that's up front and finishing on the podium. They got their win, the first win of the season at Watkins Glen, as we chronicled. But right now, Goikberg unable to get away from Jonathan Bomarito in the Mazda right behind him. Ricky Taylor is in there. So is Colin Brown.
Let's see what that 54 can do with these 3 cars now that he's caught them.
Well, certainly Colin Brown has been the fast man of this weekend, but I tell you who's fired up, Dane Cameron. He's 11th right now, 30-odd seconds back in the lead. He just laid down a 107.2, which is a second quicker than Van der Zande, who leads. But again, that strategy has really gone to the back of the pack. He's got to be careful, but he's got pace.
And this prototype train just cleared the 48 of Brian Sellers. That was your GT Daytona leader, and that is huge for them leading in the championship. They're having a good day. The 86 with Christina, or with Katherine Legge, I should say, and Alvaro Parent not having such a good day. We saw massive adjustments on the 86 Acura NSX when it was in pit lane just a minute ago. And so this is going to kind of put a crimp in their march forward in the championship just a little bit, but they still have plenty of time to salvage a good result here with an hour and 35 minutes yet to go.
Well, what's remarkable, Brian, is the 48 car who leads the championship finished on the podium every single race, including a victory at Sebring, but that lead has been dwindling because of the performance of the Meyer Shank Racing team and the 86 car with Alvaro and Katherine, and certainly Mario Farnbacher did a brilliant job subbing for Alvaro at Detroit.
When I see suspension adjustments being made, even if they were in there, reaching in there and adjusting shocks, Tommy, what that tells me is that Alvaro Parent was saying something is seriously amiss with the handling of this car.
Well, when I saw him behind, not able to make any inroads on Mike Shine, no disrespect to Mike Shine, Alvaro Parent, one of the top sports car racers on the planet, and he's not able to make any headway against him. So that didn't surprise me once I saw it. It looks like they made an adjustment front and rear, and so now Catherine's in the car. She'll be providing feedback to see if they need to go further on the next stop.
Looking at Bill Auble in there looking for his 59th sports car victory, which will get him ever closer to Scott Pruitt's record of 60. Great to see him back in action this weekend.
Right on board the 911 of Nick Tandy, now in the lead. He is working by some GT Daytona traffic. Down the back straightaway, he's managed to, actually he and Lawrence Van Thor both managed to get those Porsches back up front, and Jesse Krohn now well back in the order. He said the Porsches had the speed here, and it's just a racetrack that seems to suit this, what they don't want us to call it this, but the now mid-engine type 911. There's Krohn
in pit lane. John Edwards jumping behind the wheel. This is a driver pairing that needs to catch a break. If there's any bad luck, it seems to go their way, Tommy. They've shown speed. Edwards had the pole at Mid-Ohio, but they just cannot catch a break in terms of getting the big result.
Looks like the AFS car off the pace up the back straightaway.
52 a bit slow, and he had a great battle with the 85. The 85 of Robert Alon back as well. Did they have contact as you're watching? Look at this.
Goikberg is on it. Boy, is he committed. When you talk about Steven Simpson being committed, I think Goikberg does exactly the same when he's behind the wheel.
Robert Alon and the 52 of Sebastian Saavedra had been entangled in an intense battle, and now we see Saavedra slow. And I'm wondering if perhaps a little contact between those two or a mechanical issue for Saavedra. We'll see if he can limp back to the pits as you ride on board with Tristan Nunez.
That problem with the 52 promotes Dane Cameron up into the 10th spot, and he's got pace. He has big pace. He's cut the lead to the leader by about 5 seconds during this stint since his pit stop, but still got a long way to go to make that strategy work.
So loose tire wheel rolling there.
Well, there's going to be another problem, because when the 52 went up on the jack stands, Sebastian Saavedra still had the car in gear, and the rear tires were spinning at a pretty rapid rate, and that, I'm sure, will be a penalty.
Well, this is the sort of break that Dane Cameron and that Penske team running the 6-car needs right now. They need a little bit of a reset. get him back with those prototype leaders and see if he can cut through them a little bit effectively. Obviously, his pit stop, he's got more fuel on board and fresher tires than the rest of the field. So it can come back to you, Tommy, if you get the right brakes. And now we see it go full caution. Look at this, wheel spinning there. Yeah, they're just out of rhythm right now. It's all starting to go wrong here for the AFS PR1 Matheson Motorsports team. A lot of speed there. Saavedra's quick. Yackerman won here in 2014 and had the pole, so they have speed in that camp, that is for sure.
Problems for the 52. I think it's their right front tire that's out. Here's a look at how the 911 gets past Jesse Krohn in his Team RLL BMW. Krohn a little wide off the corner. Nick Tandy says, thank you very much. I'll take the lead here in Canada. Round 6 of the 2018 IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship continues from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. I just want to call it Mosport all the time, since that's what has been known for years. Also, make a note of this. Next week marks the 25th anniversary of Davey Allison's death, and his story kicks off the 4th season of the Beyond the Wheel short film series. The first installment airs next Wednesday on Race Hub, titled Davey Lives On. Here's a preview.
I hated that helicopter. I hated it from the beginning.
911, where is your emergency?
You're in the deepest, darkest pit of hell.
Mr. Allison is survived by his wife, Liz, 2 children.
What was that day like for them? Because I know what it was like for us.
What we have today might not be here tomorrow.
Our lives were changed forever. Were their lives changed forever?
It's intense, it's compelling, you don't want to miss it. Davey lives on. Through Davey's spirit and Liz's choices, Davey Allison's legacy lives on in more ways than you might think. It's an amazing and inspirational story of how tragedy turns into victory. Catch Davey Lives On Wednesday on Race Hub, 6 p.m. Eastern on FS1.
This will be really critical here. Going to be a bunch of prototypes coming in. If Dane Cameron comes with them, he should need a really short fill, and he should be able to leapfrog around some cars here. Whether they put Montoya in or not, that may be a factor, Tommy, and not really, you know, shortcutting the pit stop time compared to the others. Got a lot more fuel on board as they all stack up here. GT Le Mans pits with the prototypes, and then next time by it'll be GTD able to pit as well.
You saw Nick Tandy getting ready for his driver change. Jamie?
Nick Tandy is getting out, so handing duties over to Patrick Pilet. The same for the sister car, the 912. Both of them making the decision to pit, so driver change there. Earl Bamber getting strapped in. 4 Michelins in the PLM category, as well as fuel on board. They did ask Nick, do you need a fresh drink bottle? He said negative, so not working too hard enough to drink that water. Very quick pit stop for the 911, Justin.
Wow, standing where I am, this is what makes IMSA racing so great. The leading car, the number 10, came in. Renger van der Zande out, Jordan Taylor in. Clean pit stop. But I tell you what, it was an absolutely epic view. Watching the 2 Corvettes, the Porsches side by side coming out with a Mazda in the middle of them, coming down the pit lane. Wow, guys, this is that's setting up the scene for this next stint. That was, can you tell my pulse is going? Anybody?
I could tell, and I think the officials are going to have to look at some of this, the way the rules work in IMSA as you come side by side out of pit lane. Who gets to go in front and who has to drop behind, because a couple of those were close.
Yeah, really close with the 10. That may have been the 6 car. And looking at timing and score, I'm not sure if it's cycled yet. It looks like Dane Cameron may have stayed in. The issue there was shorter fuel fill for Dane Cameron, the number 6. But if you're trying to put Montoya in during a driver change, you then lose that advantage. So they may have kept Dane in for another stint here, delayed that driver change, but it was tight. There was a little bit of an overlap there. You can see the onboard. Dane still behind the wheel. But the 10 and the 6 car look really tight. There's an overlap rule, Tommy. If you get that car just even overlapping the car that's coming out inside of you a little bit, they're supposed to give you the right of way.
So I guess which overrides which? I mean, he clearly wasn't in front to pull in front. So does he have to come back out? Or if his nose is ahead, well, I guess it doesn't matter nose. It's not like NASCAR. It's not like nose getting to the front. So
no, it's not to the line.
He's going to have to give that. He's going to have to give that position.
Yeah. Watch the cars trying to warm up Continental tires and looking at the order. What an awesome racetrack. It's got some great corners. In the back straightaway here is the Mario Andretti straightaway. Our thoughts definitely with Mario after losing his wife, Deanne, this past week. And you see a tweet there from Mario. It just really shows you after 57 years, like I said, a very heartfelt tweet. And our thoughts definitely with Mario and his entire family. More to come from the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship right after this.
Attitude. Race car drivers certainly have it, and so do some race engineers. And it has been said that a certain British TV host wanders around this paddock with his nose in the air. What's that got to do with race cars? It all gets down to a rake. Not a rake, the rake. Sometimes the engineers just want to stick the car's nose a bit higher in the air or lower it. That change is called rake. Typically, race car engineers want to lower the ride height or clearance of a car and slam it as close to the racetrack surface as they can. By lifting or raising the front of a car just 3 or 4 thousandths of an inch, literally the thickness of this piece of paper, the engineer can change the car's handling by shifting the aerodynamic load to redistribute the car's aero balance. But what does that all have to do with tires? Well, the Michelin engineers embedded with their GTLM teams know that if the rake of the car is changed, it may increase or decrease the downforce on the front tires, and the load to the rear tires will also change. That change in rake may mean a different tire compound or a slight adjustment in air pressures, but it all has to work together. Or they can fine-tune that handling by a small tire pressure adjustment. Either way, they have to keep their eye on the rake. And I won't be the only one walking around here this weekend with my nose in the air. You know that now.
On board the 912, Earl Bamber. He's got his work cut out for him.
He does, but I tell you what, Dane Cameron had his work cut out for him. He just got the get out of jail free card with that yellow, because look at it now. He's going to be second in line with a lot of pace right behind Renger van der Zandt, and we're on board with him. Look at the eyes, look at the intensity.
Dane Cameron full attack mode as we go back to green, and as you said, that yellow played perfectly for them. It kind of made up for the mistake that they had a little bit earlier, but of course now you look at it and you know, well, it wasn't a mistake at all. We're fine.
I think they'd even admit they kind of got behind the 8 ball a little bit with that one.
Had to kind of restructure the order a little bit further back as well. You guys were talking about it. So on that restart, 55 went in front of the 7 and then the 5.
Well, we saw a black Cadillac and an Acura. I thought it was the 10 and the 6 car. It was actually the 7 car of Ricky Taylor and the 5 car, the Mustang sampling car. But with the overlap, the Mustang sampling car came out of the pit lane in the lead, but they had to give that position back, Tommy, with that overlap rule.
So we're going to see what Cameron has to do as things heating up in GTLM. The number 3 car putting pressure on the second or the first of the Porsches.
Antonio Garcia now behind the wheel of the 3, and these restarts are where you can try to make some time and get some positions back, maybe use that traffic to your advantage as you see the 24 working around the 93, the GT Daytona Acura from Meyershank Racing.
This is intense. Everyone on slightly different strategies. The BMWs have cycled to the front in GT Le Mans with their fuel stops. Crazy changing game of strategy. I'll tell you what, the engineers' brains will be smoking at the end of this race.
BMW looking for their first win of the season. Kind of hard to believe. Alexander Sims had 3 wins last year, and there's the 52 serving a penalty for wheel spin. We knew that that was going to happen. We also understand the number 63 of Jeff Siegel is going to get a stop and hold plus 60 for running the red light at pit out.
Oh, look at John Edwards here. He's got booked big time by the Acura. The Porsche is now all over him as they exit turn 3. Nowhere for that Acura to go, Brian. That's just the luck of the draw in terms of this racetrack.
Hard to do anything down here in turn 5. Heavy braking, Tommy, but difficult to get a pass done there.
It sure is. And how about that, having the BMWs running first and second.
John Edwards trying to keep the Porsche behind, but you begin to see that draft take a hold, the top speed come into play, and Edwards is going to hold the right side and force that Porsche to go wide. Pile outside. Is he going to get picked by the GTD car in front?
Problem for the 912, damage. Has he cut down a tire as well?
Looks like the left rear maybe down.
Moving around. There was a lot of close competition going on there, Tommy. And now we go to another yellow.
Of course, caution. Damage to the left rear. Not sure.
Short yellow rule, so this is going to be emergency service. This is really hurting this team because They got a pit to change that tire. That means they'll have to drive through the pit lane again when we go back to green.
But why the full course caution? If this car's made it back around, where's the problem? There's the problem on the racetrack.
Huge debris there coming off from Moss Corner, turn 5.
Rare to see that from a Michelin tire. Michelin's known for, even when they deflate, for staying together. So that looks like the tire basically just disintegrated. I wonder if it was cut down, Jamie, as they go to work. I wonder if it was cut down by contact.
That was the message on the radio. A bit of contact. Earl Bamber did apologize to the guys, but they said, don't worry about it. We're ready for you. We want to come in. They were planning to do a full stop until they realized that debris was out on the track. They reacted very quickly, made the decision, emergency service, tire only. They did the stop. They will have to come back, though, for the penalty of pitting in closed pitch. Justin?
Well, Renger van der Zande bringing the number 10 into the pit lane in the lead was the best job you could have probably done that stint. Wayne must have been happy too.
Yeah, for sure. It's the best you can do for your teammate, I would say. But no, it's so much fun around here. This track is phenomenal. I mean, going around the GTs, you know, it's just a spectacular move every lap you have to do it. There's so much more happening when you're in the car than what you actually can see from the outside. So it's having a good time, and that's what I love about the American racing. You know, it's every restart is a dog's fight, and going forward is always nice.
Well, there's a lot of this race left, so you better follow it. And of course, Jordan in the car now. Wayne Taylor, of course, has the fastest pumping heart in IMSA competition.
and you were breathing hard just a while ago, and there's the 6. Understand the 6 was in the closed pit as well. What?
Wow. They brought him in because they could have thought about strategy here, Tommy, with an hour and 14 on the board, to think you can do it on one more stop.
On more than 912. Tire's down already.
Yeah, it's down already. Yeah, he's trying to accelerate. He's not getting drive equally to both rears.
There, you see the tire coming apart. Like I said, very rare to see that. So that contact must have happened back in turn 2, 3, 4 area, because definitely cut down as he came in to turn 5. But you could tell that was a handful coming through that section of the racetrack, and then the tire finally just disintegrated at the exit. Curious about the 6, how that transpired and got into the closed pit. So they dodged the bullet a little while ago with the full course caution. It seems like something has come back to bit them once again. Lights off on the Corvette ZR1 safety car. Jim Crawford behind the wheel now. He's taken over from Tim Rose, who did the first half of the race behind the wheel of that safety car. Both of them Bob Bondurant driving school instructors.
Quick update on this car. He came down pit lane here. They cut tires, so it was emergency service, just like the Porsche on the 6 car as well.
Restart, the 10 up front. Jordan Taylor, they have not won since Detroit of 2017, over a year-long drought for that Wayne Taylor racing team. This would be huge if they could get back into victory lane.
Well, it's huge for the Cadillacs in general, Brian, because they didn't show a lot of pace as we look at that. Colin Brown really putting the pressure on.
Philippe Albuquerque in the 5, just in front, that black Mustang sampling Cadillac. And go back a little bit further, you see the 85, the banana boat, as we call it, doing battle with one of the Mazdas. I believe it's the 77 with the silver roof just in front. And then the 99 Gainsco Red Dragon. Steven Simpson behind the wheel. We'll see if he can mount a charge like he did at Watkins Glen with just about an hour and 9 minutes to go. Understand, now we'll add a little insult to the injury, or maybe injury to the insult, for the number 6. Stop and hold for 60 seconds for running the red light at pit out.
Wow, as this race unraveled for the fastest car on the racetrack here today, Tommy. Just crazy. And with it, the championship potential. I mean, at one stage early in the race when Cameron was leading with the 5 and the 31 buried, they had the real-time championship lead.
Yes.
And now they're at the back of the pack with the Cadillacs towards the front.
And this just shows you how a little thread, you pull the thread and it can unravel. You know, they shot themselves in the foot, they got bailed out. Then they have the puncture. Now they've emptied the clip in their foot, it appears.
See the 85 flash by. Another car that's going to have to come to pit road again is the 912 because they had that emergency service. Look down at the bottom of the screen.
You see it Bamber down to the inside and gets a little bit loose on Richard Westbrook. Then look, coming off the corner, Westy didn't like it too much. There's a little touch there as Bamber's trying to get back on the road. Didn't look on from the overhead. We saw it from an onboard in the break, Tommy, that didn't look like Westy really moved over on him. It was just Bamber getting back on the race circuit.
Significant damage to the bodywork on the left rear of the 67 after that contact. And there's a shot from the nose cam on the 6. That's not the scene that we wanted to see. It looks a lot better when it's moving. Jamie, tell us more about the 912.
Well, they already came in to serve that penalty in air quotes for making that stop in the closed pit lane. They did not take any more tires, though. They just did that one replacement for the emergency service. They did top him up with fuel, but they also sent a crew member out just to make sure that at that left rear, everything still seemed to be intact. He did do a nice job of getting it back without causing any further damage, and they just wanted to make sure of that, so they sent him out on their way.
What did we say about tempers flaring? The 24 and the 911 in contact.
Edwards has to be careful. He's got a damaged race car. Maybe broke a toe link or something in that. Look at that rear wheel.
Take a look at this.
Looks going to be the same move from the other Porsche.
This is Pele down at the inside of John Edwards.
Aggressive stuff here at Motorsport.
Yeah, and Edwards is basically out of control at this point, Brian.
That is a place where you can get a pass done, but you've got to be hyper aggressive, and the other driver's got to be aware you're going to be there. John Edwards turning down for the apex, makes that contact, he and Patrick Pele. And as you said, damage, and I'm not sure that it's not a toe link that's bent in.
Yeah, you could see it coming off. The car was driving itself in the wrong direction of what John wanted. So that right rear toe link is broken. And we just talked about that driver pairing just not catching a break this season. That continues once again.
From a potential podium finish now to will they finish it all? John Edwards, a long way to go with a damaged BMW to get back around to pit lane. Go to a battle in GTD, the 86 and the 44.
And the 64.
And the 64.
63, I should say.
Andy Lally in the Audi, and you see the 86 right there, that Acura NSX. Alvaro Perez still behind the wheel, Lally just behind in his Audi.
Okay, that white WeatherTech Ferrari is not in the fight because it also served a 60-second stop and hold for the same violation. So that WeatherTech car is a lap down.
Just try to think about the sequencing of the event. Maybe the damage from the Porsche was what got Cameron cut down the tire, because he actually had his problem slightly after the Porsche.
Yeah, he might have come through the debris field.
He might have come through that debris field that they went to caution for.
I was thinking that.
Edwards. Now, I think the tire coming apart because of the contact as well, and that right rear obviously not the alignment that you want on it. Throw in the 14 Lexus in the mix. Kyle Marcelli, who knows this racetrack so very well from here in the area, call it his home track, and his Lexus right behind Andy Lally, and out in front still is the 33, Jeroen Bleekemolen, and then the 15 of David Hannemeyer Hansen, then Perez, Lally, and Marcelli.
Well, for Bleekemolen and Hannemeyer Hansen, they have a lot less fuel on board than some of the guys further in the pack, but they should be able to do it on just one more stop to the finish, so that's going to be the key.
Jamie, it looks like John Edwards has limped that BMW back into the pits.
He did, and there's no sort of hurry really with the team down here. They know it's a big issue. They did, however, make the strategy decision to bring in the sister car just in case the pit lane closed because the 24 couldn't make it back. So they did do a driver change and a pit stop for them. Taking a good hard look at that right rear right now. The tire looked to be intact when it came off of it for the most part, looking underneath the car, trying to see if there's any damage that they can fix or if they can get it back out there, but it's a lengthy stop and a rough break for these guys.
We understand that the incident was reviewed by race control and no action. Let's take another look, see how it transpires.
This is becoming a popular move, Tommy, in terms of sliding down to the inside for White's corner here.
I mean, he's spindle to spindle. He can't hold it down tight, so it's a little bit argy-bargy, as you say.
From on board with Pele.
They didn't hit that hard, but the damage was clear.
I think it's a legit move. I mean, you just got to anticipate that a little bit.
John Edwards moved to the middle of the racetrack between 9 and 10 to kind of dissuade it, thinking that, all right, I've put it off enough that there's no way he's going to do it. But Patrick Pilet, I think, was committed from the time they left the left-hander turn 9. And as a race car driver, I mean, you set up those moves, do you not? And you planned them, and at some point in time, I think, as I said, you're committed to them, and you're going to do it one way or another.
Yeah, I see it as a racing incident. I mean, I think it's hard to lay any blame, and I think particularly as it was John's car that got the damage. I mean, Patrick, it's a legit move. We've seen it happen many times. He wasn't a late dive bomb. He was kind of sliding down to the inside, and, you know, he was basically on the curb. It wasn't like he T-boned him.
Yeah, I mean, the one argument is he wasn't able to hold it down tight, and that's what you know, Edwards left him a lane and got into him. So, I mean, I think there's blame on both sides, which is what generally makes a racing incident.
Yeah, and I think 9 times out of 10, they both continued. I think it was just unlucky where it clipped Edwards in that right rear corner.
And it goes back to no call is better than a bad call. And you look at that, and once again, 2 guys willing to race side by side through the corner. Sometimes things happen, so off you go. You take your medicine and move on. Right now, Jordan Taylor trying to move on out in front. Antonio Garcia, we talk about how strong Corvette racing is here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Corvette's out in front again, Garcia in front of Pilet. And the question is, after that contact, does Pilet have a problem with his car? Will something arise a little bit later? So we'll have to wait and see. And as I said, the 33 still out in front. Jerome Bleekemolen in his AMG Mercedes leads in GT Daytona. You guys said they would be quick. Indeed they are. Traffic all day long. These drivers are going to deal with it. There you see a little bit more. More WeatherTech Sports Car Championship action coming to you. Chamber of Commerce Day here in Bowmanville, Ontario, Canada. IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship action, round 6 of the 2018 season. And it has been a great one up until now. Just about an hour to go. Brian Till, Calvin Fish, Tommy Kindle with you in the booth. Justin Bell, Jamie Howe down on pit lane, and thousands of fans down in the infield. They always flock to this racetrack, Motorsport as we call it. Jordan Taylor leads in his number 10. We talked about it has been since Detroit of 2017 since this team has been in victory lane. A win here today would be huge for them and maybe swing some momentum in their favor.
Well, they won the first 5 races last year. This year they've only had 2 podiums out of the first 6. I mean, they're tied for 3rd in the championship, but not the sort of start they were looking for.
Look at Simon Trummer.
How busy is it around here? Well, there's a look. That was a couple of laps ago. And then up at the top of the screen, the teammates.
That was set up. Steven Simpson, not known for his patience, as we saw last week. So Chamber of Commerce weather, but some of the ladies on the Chamber of Commerce might be clutching their pearls. Now watch what happens here. Big traffic, and Simpson.
Trauma just in the grass now. Just total commitment. And this are the moments that this racetrack will give you, just unbelievable dynamic.
And look, that was Lawson Aschenbach in the 93 GTD Acura. So a very experienced championship-winning driver in that class going, I can't disappear, guys. I got one going on one side, one going on the other. He didn't do anything wrong. It just shows you the intensity. And we talked about it in the beginning of the show. Things heating up. The summertime, the competition, the tempers. We've seen tempers flare a little bit today.
The heartbeat is certainly rising for those prototype drivers, but also for the GTD guys. We see a couple of them hit pit lane here. One being the championship leading, number 48. Madison Snow now behind the wheel, and if you look at the clock, they're just inside the hour. That means when you make a pit stop here, take a full fuel load, you'll be good to go to the checkered flag.
Well, that was 4th and 5th in the running order when they headed to pit lane. Aschenbach in front of Snow on the racetrack.
Oh, there's a little bit of a delay. There were only team tactics there. Remember, the sister Acura is the one that this car is fighting in the championship. We're debating whether they do another driver change here. Sellers at a few tenths on Snow this weekend, JB.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously being down this end of pit lane as well, there's definitely the pressure on with the 93 Acura, just more pit stalls further back up, but a very nice stop for the 48 there. I'm still back up by the 93. They're just waiting on fuel as the Magnus 44 goes by. Busy pit lane. Jamie?
The 911 making their pit stop as well. It's only been 30 minutes, so they're playing the strategy game here. Patrick Pilet will stay behind the wheel of the car, taking on some Michelin tires, waiting on the fuel right now. And it was a very
well, looking at those GTD stops, either the 48 was incredibly quick and perhaps needed less fuel, or the 93 was slow.
Yeah, I think the 48 car had pitted before the 93. on the start before, Brian. So I think, or excuse me, later than the 93, so he had less fuel to top up with. But I thought the 93 was slowing him. I mean, Madison
Looks like he
got right up on the rear bumper, and again, just gamesmanship can play a big part here. There's a big battle going on in that GTD championship between Acura and Paul Miller Racing as we see the sister car. Katherine Legge, good to see her first action of the day. Justin?
Well, Katherine Legge getting in the car now. 86, she just jumped in. As you said, the 86 running a different, well, only a lap different strategy to its sister car. Fuel, very important water bottle going in. Car drops to the ground. They're just now waiting on the last few seconds of fuel. And Katherine heads out to do what she's been doing really well recently, and that is pilot her 86 Acura somewhat to the front.
She was hyper aggressive at Watkins Glen, and it worked to great success. Now, where's the 48 on the track as they head back out now in the 86?
There it is. And he's going to have a lap more tire temp than Katherine Legge, so this is a pivotal moment in this race. Can Madison Snow chase down Katherine Legge and get the track position on the Acura? The flip side of that was Parent had a hot lap in versus Snow's out lap. And these are those critical moments. And we talked about it this week, the way that Katherine was so aggressive at Watkins Glen. Can she have that same dynamic and aggression here and get away with it, Tommy?
Well, the question is that her only set point, or does she gauge it?
Here we go. She's wide. Snow is through. That is huge in the championship.
Battling to get the tires up to temperature.
And you just can't describe it well enough. Those cold tires, low pressure, they just do not have the grip. It's like skating around on marbles.
Also dealing with letting some faster cars through.
Yeah, she got a little bit wide there through Moss Corner, letting the Ford GT through. Could have picked up some marbles. Just everything played against her, but those are the little breaks. Madison Snow now has to get the hammer down.
It's 53 minutes, 40 seconds to go here. That is plenty of time. You see Katherine Legge staying there as those Continental tires begin to warm and the pressures come up. She'll have a better and better race car. The question is the changes that they made earlier. Remember back 2 stops ago, massive changes to the suspension on the 86. Is the car now well balanced? What kind of NSX does Katherine Legge have underneath her? 66 is in, Justin is there.
Yeah, that was a very quick stop, guys. That was fuel only, very, very quick stop. There's a couple of Ford GTs in the paddock today, and we've all been playing the game of how would you spec yours out. It really is a virtual game, though, not a real one.
I don't know, awesome, Calvin. Man. How would you spec yours?
I like that red, white, and blue. It looks pretty cool to me, and they got a lot of pace. They got second and third on the racetrack, waiting for timing and scoring to cycle right now. But certainly the 66 team came into this race with the championship lead. Joey Hand had a problem on the first lap after the first lap of qualifying yesterday. Had to park it, consequently started at the back, and they've tried to use strategy to get back in the game. Sometimes when you're on the back foot, Tommy, it can really open up some opportunities for you.
If you keep your head cool and don't start pressing and changing your deal. Now that's the deal. The benefit of having a really mature pairing with Hand and Dirk Muller being together. They can calm each other down, and you know these races are long, and so it's just a matter of keeping your eye on the big picture and also just letting the race come to you. You know that they know they have a fast car, they know they got a great team, and you're not going to win every race, so sometimes you got to just check yourself and say, take what the race will give me.
And remember, Joey Hand, Dirk Muller won the 6 hour at Watkins Glen just last weekend, took that momentum to a championship lead. And the sister car, the 67, remember, has damage to the left rear after contact with the Porsche. A lot of stories yet to unfold from here in Canada. Down the Mario Andretti straight, the second prototype in the shot right there. The 54 Core Autosport entry is absolutely flying next on Colin Brown's hit list. Harry Tincknell in the number 55 Mazda just in front. We saw that 54 team so strong with Romain Dumas as the third driver in the 6 hour, but Colin Brown is the one who qualified on pole at Watkins Glen. He qualified on pole here. Of course, both races they elected to change drivers and start John Bennett. They started at the back of the pack, but between strategy and outright speed, that 54 moving forward.
Yeah, and all of these cars up front, the first 7, 8 cars are all on the same fuel strategy. They'll be able to make it with just one more stop to get to the finish. So this is the real race. There's no one out of position here because of pit stops, Tommy. This is the real race for the win.
And Colin was able to get around Ricky Taylor, just showing you that speed. Could have happened in traffic. And look, taking a look on the outside. Now
Ricky's got to run though. He's going to try and set him up. Taylor, as these P2 cars have a lot of straightaway speed, about 4 miles an hour throughout the course of the weekend. Colin's a little bit further back though, so I'm not sure if he's close enough to that Mazda to make a move, but he should be able to stretch it on Ricky, even though Ricky's got the draft.
In the prototype battle, that is third, fourth,
there he goes.
fifth,
Look at Colin Brown right there. There's that speed.
Right there at the end of the back straightaway, cannot do anything with Tincknell at this point in time. It's Mazda and then the P2 car of Colin Brown with the Gibson power plant. Just behind him, the Acura of Ricky Taylor, and then the Cadillac of Philippe Albuquerque.
And they're our championship leaders, and this has been a great day for that team, Tommy. They didn't qualify well, but they just said after yesterday's qualifying, we're a strong group, we'll come back strong tomorrow. And for Albuquerque, what a job he's doing visiting these racetracks for the very first time, like a handful of the pilots in the prototype ranks today. They just keep digging deep. They know how to get it done. They're a really solid group there, led by Gary Nelson.
Well, remember, too, Albuquerque, without his regular co-driver this weekend, Joao Barbosa, had to sit out at Watkins Glen as well after he was hurt in a training accident and hurt his wrist, so he can't drive right now. Christian Fittipaldi, obviously very experienced, a former champion in the category, but not driving full-time this year, and we've seen how close it is. If you're off even half a step, you're going to be off several positions.
The 67 there staying out, currently in second position behind Tommy Milner in GT Le Mans.
This is a replay. That was Ricky Taylor running wide in turn 5, and here comes the 54. We wondered how he got around him.
Ricky Taylor really in strife there. Not sure if he's just out on the marbles and just having to really slow it down and get back. See him take a little weave there. It's not like he's doing a massive tire scrub to clean him up, if that was the situation.
You don't know if perhaps he had to go around slower traffic before and picked up some marbles, but that seems to be what dropped him back. Meanwhile, back with this battle of Colin Brown in the 54.
And he's close now. They're going to head onto that straightaway where he's been able to make up some ground.
I think he's got the faster of the two cars. It's just finding a way around Tincknell.
And he's close enough.
And what a great run for Mazda here. I mean, one more time, they're showing that they are building this program with their collaboration with Yost this year.
Tincknell got a good shot off of 5.
Yeah, that Mazda's really putting the power down well off that corner. Good traction. Critical corner, Moss corner, turn 5 to get that shot up this Andretti straightaway. Harry Tincknell. Typically, the Mazda drivers use their driver-in-loop system at Multimatic, which is based here in Markham, just outside Toronto, but remarkably, this is one racetrack that they do not have built into their sim system.
And it's just down the road.
Yeah.
Now Mazda with a little bit extra fuel and I think a little more boost this weekend.
Oh, big moment there.
Oh, wow.
See, he was coming to the inside and then he was switching up to use that outside lane.
Katherine Legge now under attack. Andy Lally just behind. It's Acura versus Audi.
Well, these two drivers finished second here last year, teamed together.
Yeah.
Know each other very well, Brian.
Andy Lally looking for a way by. And Katherine Legge certainly understands the championship implications. We said this at Watkins Glen. She says, I feel like I'm driving for my job every weekend because, as you alluded to earlier, Calvin, this was not supposed to be a full season deal for the 86, but with the results and with running second in the championship so close to the lead, the team continues to find a way week in and week out to bring that car back to the racetrack, but it takes a performance and a good finish to get to the next round.
Well, they know just one really bad day could stop the program, but you know, as the races wind down, you'd have to think that the commitment is there from HPD, from Acura, and from Mike Shank. You know that he's going to do everything he can with his Meyer Shank organization to campaign that car to try and grab that title.
Closing in, the Audi on the Acura through 9 and 10 onto the front straightaway.
There's probably no one who knows Katherine Legge better than Andy Lally. They actually used to date for a little while, so now they're a dynamic that I never had to deal with in my career. But talk about, now I don't know what kind of terms they're on. They seem to be good friends, but this will bring it out.
And you'd have to think that Andy Lally will give her respect. He's not going to do a dirty move in terms of trying to get that position. He knows that Katherine is fighting for that championship, but if there's an opportunity, Andy Lally is a racer and he's going to want that position, go after a podium potentially here today.
Well, as I said at Watkins Glen, one of the great things about what Katherine's done with her career is I don't think Andy sees her as a great female racer. Sees her as just a world-class competitor and someone he's got to figure out a way around. Car struggling here. We saw her struggle on the colder tires, and still looks like a sore spot for that 86 Acura.
Well, we talked about the massive changes that were done to the suspension earlier. Obviously, Alvaro Parent was not happy with the balance of the car. They've made it better. It looks to me like down in 5 and 6 in the slower sections of the racetrack, it's really not doing what she wants it to do. She can't get it to the marks the way she needs to. And for Andy Lally, just a matter of time. But one of the things that Bo Barfield, as the race director, talks about, both class battles or class within, or cars within the same class, is the level of respect that drivers have. And that's exactly what you guys were just saying. When you're friends with somebody, when you have the respect of your competitor, you're going to give them a little more slack. You're going to give them a little more leeway. And that's especially true for these GT Daytona drivers when the prototype guys are coming through. If you've got somebody who's roughed you up before, you're not going to be that nice and that generous to let them by easily.
Oh, absolutely. If you've been burned by a driver, even if they're in the championship contention, you're just going to give them a hard time. You're going to go for the result. You're going to go for the position, not think twice about it.
And talk about picking a scab. It could have happened 3 years ago if someone did you dirty, and you're going to, when you have a chance to pay it back, you will.
Yeah, grudges get held for a long time. The 77 now working through GT Daytona traffic in turn 1 on the right side of your screen. A little bit of clearance between himself and the 99 of Steven Simpson, as Simpson has to flash around the high side of the 63, and the 85 still right there. Simon Trummer, teammates to Steven Simpson at JDC and Miller Motorsports, still runs behind the 99, and they had that great battle a little bit earlier. Still Jordan Taylor out in front. Tommy Milner now leads in his number 4 Corvette in GT Le Mans, and Kyle Marcelli in the Lexus in GT Daytona.
Well, I'll tell you one thing we're looking at today, Tom, is that these P2 cars have shown a lot of pace here, but in traffic, they do not have the torque of these DPIs. And as you look at the front of the field right now, it's 3 DPIs at the front. Then we see a bunch of these P2 cars, so they got the pace over the lap, but when you get into traffic and those moments where you're just off the peg a little bit, suddenly that DPI is going to come to the front a little bit.
Well, and especially the normally aspirated one in the Cadillac.
Kyle Marcelli in the number 14, remember, took the victory at Mid-Ohio earlier this year, and that was a special win, but he's going to have his hands full of an AMG Mercedes here before long, because Jeroen Bleekmolen, and we talked about him at the beginning of the show, how fast we expected that car to be, and indeed Bleekmolen closing down. Marcelli, Dominic Baumann with that win at Mid-Ohio. There's nothing Marcelli would like better than to take a victory here, and that would be the second one of the season for them. But like I said, Jeroen Bleekmolen looks like he is absolutely flying in that AMG Mercedes.
As we said earlier, Brian, they are very quick at Watkins Glen, and I think they really showcased how quick they are going to be. No disrespect to Ben Keating, but when he lines up on the second row of the grid, A, he's done a brilliant job, but B, that car is quick. And certainly Jeroen was one of the best, if not the best, or certainly the most busiest GT driver in the world, let's put it that way. Everyone loves to employ him.
And he's running laps right at his fast race lap, 2/10 off the fastest that car's done. And Marcelli within a half a second of his quick lap. But when we first saw the 14 was behind the 33 about 6 or 7 laps ago, now he's stretched it out and is now up onto the back of the 14 class-leading Lexus.
Again, these guys in similar strategy. Everyone at the front end of this GTD field should be good to go on fuel, so this is an outright battle.
Car in the grass.
Oh, yeah. Is it one of the Acuras?
It is.
It is one of the Acuras. Off at turn 6, I believe it is the 6.
Yeah, it's been quite the day for Dane Cameron, shown tremendous pace. His fastest lap is still a second clear of anyone else in this class, but the day has just gone awry, and got to feel he's close to his pit stop to get Juan Pablo Montoya in. As you can see, dirty tires now really giving him a job there as he heads through turn 8.
Stays on the racetrack, the 55 on pit road. On the way out right now for them, Bleekmolen on track, closing in on Marcelli in front. And I got to give credit to Kyle Marcelli. I've always thought he was a very good race car driver. He has great opportunities this year in the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge Series, as well as the WeatherTech championship, and I think driving 2 cars on a full-time basis has really elevated his game, and we have seen it in both of these series. I won't be a spoiler and tell you what happened in yesterday's Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge Series race. I will just tell you that once again he's shown how quick he can be. The 10 is in.
Final pit stops of the day for a lot of the prototype runners will happen right now. Once you're inside that 40-minute window, you can go full ridge and get to the finish. Jamie.
Colin Braun making his move to the pit lane. He has an interesting dynamic because he has his dad, Jeff Braun, on the radio with him engineering this car, and they have a very good relationship, very calm and respectful over the radio. He's a clean into the pit lane for New Continental Tires fuel, telling him he's good all the way to the checkered flag. They did make a slight adjustment in tire pressure.
Well, the 10 just pulling past me as the 5 just waiting to finish their stop. Just look at the front of that car. How many bugs and how much grease has been thrown up. Wow, that makes visibility pretty tough. He just made it in front of Colin Braun pulling out of the pit lane.
That was a great pit stop by those guys, Justin, to leapfrog around Colin Braun. Amazing. Action Express team with the Mustang sampling car today are certainly executing.
One of the things you find, as close as the competition is, as equal as these drivers are, and the balance of performance, man, it's one of those deals where if you can get it done in pit lane, that's the easiest pass you'll ever make.
Well, it's true. It's dramatic to do around the outside or do something that makes the highlight films, and that's not sexy, but execution is the little things. It's the dotting the I's and the crossing the T's that leads to race wins and championships. Justin, what do you have in the 31 pits?
Well, they've picked a pretty quiet pit lane to come in right now after that chaos a few seconds ago, but 4 new tires, scrub tires going on. Once again, the car certainly, this hot Sunday afternoon here in Canada is killing some local flying wildlife. It's very greasy out there, which obviously, Tommy, makes you wonder what the condition of the circuit must be like. This day, they're going to see about 115, 118, 20 degrees is what Michelin guys told me.
7 car out of pit road, and now the 4 is in
from the lead. Westbrook and Milner really rolling the dice by staying out there. That lead they had would have been erased if they'd seen a yellow, but right now the only yellow that the Corvette boys are seeing is that car on pit lane, which is fortunate for them.
And Westbrook really not letting that damage to the back of that Ford GT slow him down.
Yeah, 15.7, that's a great lap by him.
4 back on the racetrack. Tommy Milner behind the wheel. He has a win here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park in GTLM competition. And you look also at the number 10, Jordan Taylor, trying to chase down his brother. A familiar scene here in Canada, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Andy Lally and his number 44 Magnus Racing Audi R8 trying to find a way around the Acura NSX of Katherine Legge just in front. They have been locked in this battle for the last 5 or 6 laps.
Yeah, it's certainly been very close, but it doesn't look like Andy's really putting the pressure on Tommy.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, you know, being respectful of the overall championship situation. Yeah, racing hard, but doesn't want to jeopardize that.
It's been a quiet season for the Magnus Racing team, and they got that little bit of BOP help, so you know that Andy's going to want a result if he can get one here today.
Good run for them being shown right now in 6th. Katherine Legge being shown in 5th, and once again, she needs to stay close to the 48, and timing and scoring right now showing the 48 of Madison Snow in 4th, just in front, and that's just how quickly a prototype gets by.
That's what Renger Venderzand was talking about. Now that's Jordan Taylor in the number 10 Konica Minolta car that came around. But it's just a thrill ride.
You literally need eyes in the back of your head, Tommy, as you know, around this place. But I tell you what, Katherine is really struggling, I think, with the rear end of that Acura. See it particularly through this slow section, Brian. You'd seen that a little bit earlier here. Just can't get the power down coming off this corner. Andy's right there with her. Literally pushing her up the straightaway, giving her some help now. There's faster cars coming up behind there. Felipe Nasr having a great run here today. Could take the championship lead here tonight with a 5-car back in 4th position. They were only 1 point behind starting the day. And what a recovery for those Action Express cars that qualified way back down deep in the pack in prototypes.
Finally gets around. As you saw out the in-car camera, the 54 off in pursuit of the 31 for 2nd position. And here's our leader
on board with Jordan Taylor I've lost my voice there for just a second. Jordan Taylor through turn 1. And this is where we saw him go around the outside of Katherine Legge just a minute ago. This racetrack's so incredibly quick. Gives you an idea of how quickly they will close on the GT traffic.
And he can't afford to hit any traffic in a bad spot and lose a bundle of time, because Felipe Nasr is closing in on that lead. It's only about 3 seconds now, Brian.
Ignore the scoring that's on your screen. It's one of the things that's been messing us up, is that scoring is not correct. Jordan Taylor is leading, but the 5 and the 7 are not in second and third.
It's the 10 from the 31 from the 54 with a 5 car in 4th position currently, with Ricky Taylor chasing in the number 7 Acura.
Down the back straightaway, and he'll have to try to work past the GT Le Mans Ford GT just in front. It happens so quickly here, Justin. Speed's absolutely incredible.
Well, that's why I came out here right to the end of the pit wall, because I wanted everyone at home to see just how fast this is from perspective. See the Acura coming by, the number 10. Whoa, just point the camera over there so they can just see right by us how fast it is. The G-loads, and they're going side by side round these corners. It's outrageous. Anytime you think that there is a more formidable form of motorsport, you got it wrong. It's right here, IMSA right now. Well, these guys are brave. I'm very happy that for once that I'm this side of the pit wall, Tommy.
When Elio said the TV doesn't do it justice, that gives you an idea of how much it's plunging down into turn 1. And from a driver, I remember you would kind of start it in slowly with soft hands, and then the car doesn't feel very good because it's not loaded up. Then you get down to that apex, you pick up some banking, but to really sail it in there when the car doesn't feel planted was where the speed was at, but it was hard to do.
And typically what you wanted to do was lift off, but when you lifted off, it threw all the weight forward and then make the rear feel real edgy, so you got to get through that kind of crucial point in the corner.
And same feeling as you head down into turn 4. I got reminded of it. I spent some time on the iRacing simulator last night in a Porsche 919.
And you were impressive.
Tell you what, this is an impressive run. Richard Westbrook, really, that team is rolling the dice. He's got the lead right now, but staying out. What we're talking about here is if there's a yellow, pit lane will be closed, particularly as we're in the last 30 minutes of the race. And this is the problem they've got to watch out for. They are really rolling the dice by getting inside of that 30-minute mark, because he could not come down pit lane if it goes yellow right now.
And the reason he's doing it is they're banking on him being able to string together a bunch of fast laps. And so,
tell you what, huge risk though, huge risk.
Even with some aerodynamic damage to the left rear after the contact with the Porsche, we were talking about how fast the racetrack is in qualifying. There was speculation that turn 1 was flat out. And what was the minimum speed in turn 2?
About 150 miles an hour, Dane Cameron was saying in qualifying. But what we're talking about here, Tommy, in the last 30 minutes of the race, not only is pit lane closed, it doesn't open until you go back to green.
Right.
Unlike whether you were 35 minutes to go, goes yellow, eventually open for you.
Yeah, I mean, they've decided to go all in with this strategy. It's a risk that was going to put you back in the queue. Now it's going to put you back in the queue and maybe even a lap down.
And looking at the gaps, I think they had about 30 seconds. I think Pilet is going to assume the lead even when Westbrook pits in the 911 Porsche. But the big key is those 2 Corvettes. Where does Westbrook cycle out? He's going to lose about 22 seconds just coming down pit lane at 60 kilometers an hour, plus the service. He doesn't need a ton of fuel, of course, so he's not going to be on there for long. Will he take 2 tires? Will they just double stint those Michelins? Hard to say. The real battle is that number 66 car. They want to beat that car. That's the one they're in the championship fight for right now coming in.
We said this at Watkins Glen. There's no car that you would rather beat than your team car, especially when you've got the championship leads. Oh, look at this. The 14, the Lexus. Oh, and a problem, is that the 6 again?
It is Montoya behind the wheel now.
That's in turn 6. Was he missing a tire or wheeled? Is that what I saw?
It looked like it, and that sounds like it.
There is the tire and wheel off the 6, we believe.
Just come out of pit lane.
And you know what that's going to do?
2 minutes ago.
Full course caution.
This is going to, where is the 67? Were they able to get to pit lane? Yeah, yes, he's in. The 67 is in pit lane. Wow.
They called that perfectly.
Oh, yeah, well. Maybe if that happened a lap earlier, it wouldn't have been so perfect.
Justin?
Wow, you called it, and as you're speculating, he called it. Look, no rear bodywork on the left-hand side, but boy, that was an amped-up stop, and the red light went on at pit lane exit as he just went through it. So perfect.
So that'll be. Take a look at what happens. Here's Juan Pablo Montoya is the left
coming
front.
out of the front fender.
And I just want to go back to Justin Bell for just a second, because I need you to clarify something that you said as you see that left front tire now completely departed from the car. Did you say that you think he went through the red light, Justin, or it went red as he went through it?
No, I didn't. It was green, and as he went afterwards, it went red. So completely clear as he went through. Just as a little over-revved as I came in, as I said that. The 6 is coming back in. Juan Pablo probably will be desperate to leave Canada, I have a feeling.
And not a good day for the 6 as they go to replace that left front, and be interesting to see if there's any damage to it as well. Good news for the 67. Good luck for them, just in the right place to take advantage of that full course caution when it came out. More to come from Canada. Stay with us. Work continuing on the left front of the number 6 Acura from Acura Team Penske. Juan Pablo Montoya behind the wheel, a problem as he headed into turn 5. As that left front departed the car, it's been a bad weekend for the number 6, but it's been a good weekend for the 54, Jamie. We've seen them fly at Watkins Glen, and they are on it again here.
Yes, they're looking for their 3rd podium, maybe even the first win of the season. John, you said racing is racing. You guys were the pole sitter. Colin Braun earned that pole position, made the decision to start at the back, get you the Truman Aiken points. You're the driver, but as a team owner, how difficult is it to make those choices?
Yeah, I mean, this is clearly where, you know, the sport is certainly a team sport, and we've all built this work, and here we are. So proud of what it took to get the car to this point, and Colin is at the controls, and he's had a really good weekend. He's led every session. He's bottled lightning, and racing's racing, as you said, and so it's far from over, but the sky's looking pretty blue.
We're going to go green this time. Thank you.
And Colin Braun will be all over Jordan Taylor, but think about this. The 54 looking for their first win in prototype, and we talked about this earlier. The 10 looking for their first win since over a year ago. So a little desperation on the part of at least the first 2 drivers in line.
Yeah, and for Colin Braun, he's not in the championship hunt. He's got nothing to lose. He's going to be all in, Tommy. He's going to be going for this victory. Jordan Taylor, they're 3rd in the points. Solid day here today. A win or a podium gets them right back in the mix. So it's going to be interesting, because that P2 machine, the Core Autosport number 54, does have about 3 to 4 miles an hour straightaway speed. Right at the very end, it seems like he gets it.
Well, we saw how well the 31 car, or actually the Mazda, was putting the power down with that normally aspirated Cadillac. We'll see what the shot off 5 is like. Lap traffic definitely will come into play.
I mean, you think about this for Jordan Taylor and Ringer Van de Zandt, and you talked about it as far as championship implications go. Everybody in the championship that is in front of them is behind them on the racetrack right now. We know that the 6 is having a tough day as far as Cameron and Montoya go. Curran and Nazar in the 31 are behind them on the racetrack. If they can keep them there, they'll gain on them in the championship. And Albuquerque in the number 5 for Mustang Sampling is behind them as well. So 10's going to be desperate to try to keep that 54 behind them and give themselves a little bit more pad in the championship as they try to move forward.
It's going to be a big battle there with the GT Le Mans runners, because they're mired in GTD traffic as well. Westwood's got to thread his way through that.
Better tighten down your belts. Here we go. Jordan Taylor and that black number 10 Cadillac. Colin Braun all over behind him.
Look at Ricky Taylor to the outside in turn 1. There's a touch. He's off.
That was not going to work from the start.
That wasn't going to work, but then you wonder about how absolutely aggressive Albuquerque was. Was that a closing the door, or was that the car just dancing to the outside and getting into the side of the
I have no idea he was there.
Yeah, you can't see him, Brian.
Yeah.
You turn it through that corner, your eyes are way ahead of that speed, and he's over on your left flank. Be tough to see him even if you want to look in your left side mirror at that point in time. Wild action, everyone putting on the line. We talk about this racetrack, total commitment. Is going to ramp up to a new intensity level here with 17 minutes to go.
We saw Ricky try that on the 85 before, and then got picked off with the lap traffic. It was not on a restart.
Yep. And the 55 of Harry Tincknell in there as well. And now look at this. Colin Braun looks to the outside of Jordan Taylor at the end of the back straightaway. We talked about perhaps a little bit of an advantage top speed-wise on the 54 with that Gibson power plant in the back, but unable to take advantage of it right there. But Colin Braun definitely on full attack mode.
And this is a really interesting battle, because we've seen how strong, as we go split screen with the Porsche mixing it up, and that's the 86 Acura.
There's Westbrook, one car ahead. That's the leader right now in GT Le Mans. That would give him the championship lead tonight if he can hang on. Really got a break there with that yellow. He would not have had the lead of this race. Pile would have had it without the yellow. So they dodged a big bullet in terms of pit lane being closed, but they also got big help in terms of making the pit stop and keeping the lead of the race.
Andy Lally has gotten past Katherine Legge, and Legge, you could tell she just left the door open for Pile a little bit in turn one and let him go by. That's that respect you talk about. You ride on board with Andy Lally right there, trying to move forward.
Yeah, he is trying to move forward. Look at this. They're touching down into turn 4. This is crazy stuff here. Right now, this is for the 3rd position. So Andy Lally gives him a little touch there through Moss Corner.
I'm seeing a little less respect with Jack Hawksworth than he showed with Katherine Legge.
Didn't see that with the 86 car, did you? But I tell you what, Lally's done Katherine Legge a big favor because he's jumped ahead of Madison Snow. So that helps her out.
There's the 67 to the outside for GT.
Battles racing through other battles.
And you know that the Porsche is not far behind Westbrook, and Hawksworth can't slow down and let Westbrook go. He's got Andy Lally right behind, so both of those class fighting for position.
Oh, and this has really helped out Westy. He has a brave move around the outside. He hung in there well, but look at this. Here comes Pile to the inside of that GTD traffic. Advantage Westbrook.
The 48, Madison Snow looked like they were gonna, like he was gonna get a move, but now both Corvettes coming through.
And there's Dirk Mueller. He's suddenly joining the party as well.
Good stuff, and it has been being mixed up. The order changes almost every lap. To the left side of your screen, that's the replay of the pass for the lead. Jeroen Bleekemolen, forceful move down in turn 1. Little push to the outside.
Kyle Marcelli knows this racetrack like the back of his hand, and he didn't want to give it up, but we anticipated that that 33 car would be strong here this weekend, maybe grabbing that victory.
Looking for the first win of the season for the 33, Jeroen Bleekemolen.
Bamber now really close to Dirk Mueller as they head up the Mario Andretti straightaway. Look behind these two yellow vets. Then they'll see Dirk Mueller, then Earl Bamber in the 912 Porsche.
Milner right up behind Garcia. They're going to try to run nose to tail, see if they can't move forward a little bit and use that draft to help them move forward. Meanwhile, Bleekemolen continues to hold down the point in GTD. Jordan Taylor holding off Colin Brown for now in the prototype category.
It is tight up front. Top 5 in prototypes are all separated by just under 4 seconds of a second.
Watch the 5 in the 31, the black Cadillac, and then around the outside 7, Ricky Taylor.
Yeah, I don't think that was deliberate by Albuquerque. I think he just didn't know he was making that move. He had a run on him, and Albuquerque would have been looking ahead.
Let me go back to Daytona, the Rolex 24 a year ago.
I know where you're going with this.
I don't
think you risk. I don't think you risk. When you're in the championship hunt and you're leading the championship, I don't think you play that retaliation game.
I'm not saying retaliation. It's just the respect game that we talked about earlier.
I don't think in those high stakes and that kind of risk, I doubt that Philippe would do that. That would be my read. There's also a huge crown of the road that would launch the car out that way. I'd be very surprised if he saw him. Although
I'm going with the shooter on the grassy knoll here.
You could be right. I mean,
I'll put it to you this way. I don't think he did him any favors
at the Glen.
Yeah, absolutely. Colin Brown not letting Jordan Taylor get away, and you ride now on board the 911 Patrick Pilet, and the Corvettes have gotten by both vets by the 911. Oh, with the 55, stuck in the gravel. 12 minutes to go, and this is going to bring out another full course caution. Harry Tincknell, short yellow rules. The pit lane will be closed and stay closed.
Curious to see how Pile lost those 2 positions to the vets.
Wow.
That is huge in the championship and takes the pressure off Westbrook as well. Here it is. He's trying to get around one of the Lexus here. And there go the Corvettes, so probably coming off a Moss corner, Tommy. One would assume that Pile just got balked a little bit and allowed the Corvettes to run. He chose left, they chose right, and had the better run.
I'm guessing he might have slipped up because he wouldn't have been on the outside of that Lexus. He might have slipped up into 5. The Lexus was coming underneath him, would be my guess.
Odd place for him to be. doesn't really matter. It goes back to when you're working through traffic like that, sometimes you pick right, sometimes you pick wrong. Maybe you just picked wrong and put him to the outside. Either way you look at it, looks like traffic played a role in both Corvettes by. And this is huge in the championship complexion of GTLM, because Westbrook now in front and the 66 well back. They've got the 55 out, and they're going to want to get all that gravel off. But look at the right front tire. You can see it through the bodywork. Look at the rocks that are on it. That's what warm tires do. You're on board with Jordan Taylor.
Colin Brown to the lead.
End of the back straightaway.
Yeah. Whoa. Had it already gone yellow? Did he have to give it up? See the yellow flashing. So maybe he just had to give it up. Did Jordan lift because he saw the yellow, or was that a legitimate move? And then,
looks like
unfortunately for him, the timing just backfired on him.
So it looks like Colin Brown immediately giving that back by, perhaps the crew saying, no, 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 the yellow was out. And if there is any doubt at all, give it up, avoid the penalty, and then we'll go back and try to get it back as you see the rocks on the 55. You ride on board with Jordan Taylor. He was your leader just as we were going to break, but there was that controversial pass at the end. You'll notice the 54 in front of him right now. Take a look at this.
See this move. This is where that 54 car has the edge in top speed, and Colin makes the move, and then it immediately goes yellow, and the call has been made that he cleared him before the yellow was on.
It might be a case of, in motion or in process.
Yeah,
but either way, because I think if the 10 had challenged into there, I don't think he would have gotten around. It's hard to say. Either way, I guarantee you, Colin Brown bit a buttonhole in his seat going around the outside there.
Here we go, back to a restart, and the 10 right behind. What can he do in championship implications? Because the 31, Felipe Nasr, right behind Jordan Taylor. Taylor needs to finish in front of him to continue to move forward in this championship. He and Ringer van de Zande have had some great finishes. What they have not had is a win, and Colin Brown has checked out.
He really has. That car has come to life, and he's put it all on the line there. But what we see as second, third, and fourth on the road right now is actually first, second, and third in the championship, but in the reverse order. There's Ricky Taylor now trying to make some move on Ollie Jarvis.
Colin Brown now through turn 5. The last time he and John Bennett won a race together was this very racetrack 2 years ago in the Prototype Challenge category. They ran GT Daytona last year. That GT car did not seem to fit John Bennett's style. They moved into the prototype this year, and they've been back to having some pretty good success. And I'd say the success they've had over the last couple of weekends has been better than just pretty good. Look at this.
Look at that move. Ricky Taylor trying to find a gap, and Ollie gives him a little bit of great respect there. That is just awesome driving at those sort of speeds, Tommy.
It really is. You got to have respect, and you got to play nice. Dancing on the edge of disaster like that.
Well, and it's commitment there from Ricky.
It's every lap. Every lap you can find a move like that by a prototype on either another prototype or GT traffic around this racetrack. It's why the fans come here every year, and it's why the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship is so wildly popular. The racing is just absolutely incredible. You're seeing it right here, and it's the respect. We talked about this last night at dinner about some of our concerns because the lack of respect that we've seen over the last couple of weekends. But I got to say this this weekend, I think a lot of these drivers stood up and took notice.
Yeah, and I think there was a stern warning given, or kind of a directive by Bo Barfield, the race director, in terms of how we want to see this race played out. And as we said at the start of the show, Tommy, this is now the fastest racetrack we come to. We see Hawksworth going for a ride there.
He was in third, and he's not anymore because he's
way
off.
down the order.
Yeah, that's going to mix things up, and that's going to be good. Once again, Katherine Legge still has Madison Snow in front of her. That's not good for the championship, but she's right there with him. And it'll be another good finish for the 86, even if it ended this way. And perhaps good enough to keep that 86 Katherine Legge, Alvaro Perret continuing to show up at races and continuing to battle.
Well, that promotes Madison Snow up to the 4th position. Let's not forget they've got a podium streak that started at Daytona this year, and it hasn't given it up yet. But today they've got a battle on their hands to get another step.
Needs another position to continue that streak. To do that, he's going to have to get past Andy Lally, and that's going to be a tall order.
We've backed that replay up a little bit more to find out exactly more about that lead change in GTLM. Here's the 911 trying to get around the 14, gets around the 14. Oh, he's bumping a little bit, so that he gave up a little bit of his advantage, but then overcooks it just a little bit into 5 and can't get it turned into 5A or 5B the second half of this corner. Can't turn, can't turn, can't turn. Here comes the Lexus again and both Corvettes.
Yeah, and I think that's the respect thing. I think Marcelli was a little bit miffed about how Pile had gotten around him. The Corvettes take advantage.
What you do to me, I'll do to you.
I'll tell you what, Spinal Tap would approve of the racing this year because it has turned up to 11. Unbelievable intensity.
It is so intense in every class. GT Le Mans, it's always been there. It's really got feisty in GTD there this year, and the prototype, the speeds, the bar has been raised.
Just the bravery to pull these moves off. I mean, Jordan Taylor going around the outside in 8 is as hairy as a move as you can do. Except it's hairy to go around the outside in 1. And so it's just they're doing it all day, every lap, and it's just, it's breathtaking.
It seems to be in every corner. Talk about breathtaking. Jerome Bleekemolen continues to lead in GT Daytona, but you can see Kyle Marcelli still in the background, so he hasn't let him get away. There are a couple of team owners sitting on their pit boxes right now holding their breaths because Bleekemolen and Ben Keating are winless so far this year, as are John Bennett and Colin Brown.
And I'll tell you what, we saw Marcelli there coming off the final corner, was immediately moving to the right because Lally is putting the pressure on. And I think this really goes back to show just how much respect he was giving Katherine Legge, because he's got really feisty now. Speed is there in the Audi today. This is the car that had a huge shunt. John Potter had an ABS issue coming right into this corner, the slowest corner on the racetrack in practice.
Oh man, he is right there under braking.
Team had to go to work, get the car rebuilt for qualifying. Hats off to that whole Magnus Racing team in terms of digging deep and fighting hard.
Marcelli with a good launch off the corner, but it'll be interesting to see mid-range and top speed, and also Lally with a bit of a draft. That Lexus kind of boxy, that Audi a little bit more streamlined. Can he take advantage of that top speed-wise? And the answer is no. I don't think he gained at all. I don't think he lost anything either. The margin stayed the same. Talk about margins. Colin Brown continuing to extend his over Jordan Taylor.
Yeah, and he laid down a really fast lap, 1:07.5. So he's got pace, and he's stretching it. And for John Bennett, he knows he's got his man behind the wheel now.
Taylor's not laying down. I mean, there's a gap, but he was within about a 10th that last lap. But then Brown backs it up with a 7.9, and okay, 0.6 slower for Jordan on that lap.
But think about this. Think about how big this win would be for the 54. They had a podium finish at the Rolex 24, a podium finish at the Watkins Glen 6 Hour, and you would expect that because they have multiple drivers, and you can say, all right, we can eliminate the speed differential between Colin Brown and a John Bennett because we know that Colin is much quicker. Sprint races are going to be more difficult. Well, guess what? This is a sprint race. John Bennett did his job exactly what he needed to do, kept the car in position so that Colin Brown could take it over, and now between a little bit of strategy, a lot of good speed, and a good setup on the car, they look like they may take a victory here.
I'm going to share a little backstory. I got a call from Paul Tracy last night saying, hey, can Colin Brown win? I said, what are you worried about Colin Brown winning? And he says, you know, there's some noise in the IndyCar paddock about trying to get Colin Brown a test in IndyCar. So a little bit of an audition going on. Yeah. I said, well, depending on how the yellows fall, if they can get Colin in early without losing a lap, he's got a really fast car. So he says there's no way he's going to lose a lap. I said, well, depends on how the yellows fall, and here it is.
Yeah, the yellows fell the right way. John Bennett did his job. As you look at the 3 and the 4, Garcia and Milner running nose to tail, trying to chase down Richard Westbrook.
Westy's done a brilliant job. Remember, he did not take tires, Brian, and he has just gapped the field here as we're going back to green. And he was so frustrated. Remember, he really dominated Watkins Glen with the pole, with the pace early. They had that roll bar break where the car lost its balance, and with it, they lost the championship lead. But they fought back here. The Fords did not roll off the truck well, but they kept working on the setup, trying to find a tire compound from Michelin that really worked to suit the conditions, the temperatures, and they've really executed. They rolled the dice big time, just getting in before that yellow was a huge break.
I mean, the all-in analogy is appropriate because they really were, it was risk on top of risk, and they barely squeaked it by.
Well, they have shown exactly what they could do from an engineering standpoint, a strategy standpoint, and a driving standpoint. The Orica chassis, the Gibson power plant, the LMP2 configured car. Colin Brown, John Bennett, they've been teammates for a long, long time. John Bennett sitting on the box with a smile on his face as he watches his driver through the last corner. Colin Brown, John Bennett, it has been a 2-year hiatus from Victory Lane, but they are back. They win at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Look at John Bennett. I don't think he's had a breath in the last 5 or 6 laps. He takes one now.
David slays Goliath.
That is
2 weeks in
so
a row.
cool.
Absolutely amazing. The white flag out on all 3 classes. Of course, Jerome Bleekemolen and Ben Keating took the win in GT Daytona. And for Richard Westbrook in the 67 Ford GT, it's going to be huge for he and his co-driver Ryan Briscoe.
Yeah, it really is. It'll give them the championship lead because the 66 has not had a great day. Admittedly, it really was set up by their poor qualifying run with a mechanical issue, but nonetheless, the Ford GT team have performed, and Westy and Ryan Briscoe are going to assume the lead in this championship once again if he can get it to the stripe.
Just a couple more corners. Ford and Ford GT, their 3rd victory on the season, the 2nd victory of the year for the 67 for Ryan Briscoe and Richard Westbrook. They win in Canada and they extend their points lead. Good stuff. What a race today.
Heart was in my throat for about 75% of it.
Well, we said it's intense. This championship season is just really ramping up.
And you know, I look at Colin Brown in that 54 and to hear you tell that story about the rumors about IndyCar tests, this is a young driver who cut his teeth in the open wheel formulas like a lot of young drivers do, but turned his attention to sports car racing because he thought he could make his name there. The other path was too difficult. Well, now he's made a name, and perhaps all of his hard work and success will indeed pay off. We'll be back to Canada. What a day at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Round 6 of the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship in the books. And Colin Brown, the young Texan, what a performance behind the wheel. And Jamie, I would think the celebrations are going to be big with Core Autosports tonight.
And they're just now starting as John Bennett makes his way over here for the hug, the high five. Colin, you're at the pinnacle of the sport right now. You knew the move up to the prototype class was going to be a challenge. To get this win, though, and make those passes, those high commitment passes, what is this like?
Yeah, it's a blast. I mean, you know, nice to be back winning overall again. That's a lot of fun. Hats off to John. He drove a heck of a first stint. These Car Autosport guys did a nice job. And, you know, those passes around the outside of 8 were about the only place we had any gain on those guys. They were better in a lot of the corners. They had a lot more torque and things like that, but definitely had one spot on the track and just had to commit to it every time. And thankfully these Continental tires stuck and we got it done.
And John, for you, your emotion up sitting on the pit cart went from high, went from low, went from nervous energy.
I'm not sure if it's too soon to celebrate, but Colin, he's just been bottle lightning all weekend long. And you know, at this point, I need to thank my mom and dad. I mean, they didn't understand what racing is, and I'm here and standing on top with Colin and our team, and yeah, the view is pretty good.
Woo! Congratulations. Justin?
Wow, you just missed it there. To see Ryan Briscoe lift up Richard Westbrook. It could have been a World Cup victory. It was just as good. Well done, Richard. What a run in your 67 Ganassi 4 GT. What a win, mate.
It was awesome and really unexpected. It's been a struggle for us this weekend, and yeah, we threw the dice and did what we had to do, and got the team gave me some clear track there, and managed to make the most of it. And just yeah, we got a really good record here, 2 wins and a podium in 3 years, and a great time.
Great time. All because of the soccer. That's why, mate. What about
yeah. Oh, I can't believe it. I mean, 20 minutes in, I was just hoping we'd finish, and we got the strategy. The car just got better as the fuel came down, and Richard just drove amazing. I'm just in shock at the moment. This is awesome.
Great. Well, what a way to celebrate, guys. Jamie?
Well, for Ben Keating, Jerome Bleekemolen, first win on the season, first win in a while for you guys. To get it done here, given what you had to do to make those passes, what was going on in the cockpit?
Oh, it's so nice. I mean, we've been out of victory lane for a while, and it didn't feel good. We've had a couple of tough races, but a great race today. Team did fantastic strategy and pit stops, everything. Ben drove a really good opening stint, staying with the leader. So unbelievable race day for us, and hopefully from now on it's uphill and we can catch up to the leaders.
Congratulations, you guys.
Absolutely awesome job by all. We heard Colin Brown say the moves outside turn 8, the only place he could get it done. Audi moving the race.
And that's a case where it's kind of where angels dare to tread, and he said that's where they were making it, so he committed, and that is commitment.
And let's not forget, you're just touching 180 miles an hour at that point when you're putting it all on the line.
And there's a look at the top three in each class. And think about this, for Colin Brown and John Bennett, for John Bennett to make the decision to come and race at the pinnacle, to win in prototype challenges, one thing they took on, as Justin said at the beginning of the show, they took on Goliath. And they won today.
Well, they showcased Colin Brown's speed over the last 2 weekends with 2 consecutive pole positions, but then to execute in the race is just amazing. And hats off to that whole group. They come in here, total commitment. They do it right. It's a great team, and it's a great result for everyone.
There's a look at your Continental Tire race recap. 6 cautions for 18 laps. That was somewhat surprising. 21 lead changes.
Yeah, it was an intense race. A lot going on. I mean, this racetrack is unbelievable. It's a fun one to watch on TV. If you haven't been there, folks, put it on your bucket list. It's something special to stand by the side of this racetrack and watch these guys and girls put it all on the line.
Corvette racing continues to show very good speed here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Justin?
Antonio and Jan, I mean, a podium, I mean, it's a great result. You always want to win. You know how to win here, but this is a tough track. Took everything out of you guys, it looked.
Yeah, for sure. I think we had a good shot at it. I think we missed out when the Ford got to take kind of a freebie stop at the end there. So, but second and third for the team is really good. It's good for the championship. We're where we want to be, but a win would have been nice.
It looked like a yellow train going around there, didn't they, Jamie?
Well, for Kyle Marcelli, second podium of the season. Tough GTD battles today, though. You were right in the middle of it the whole race. Talk me through it.
Yeah, I think it was a really fun race for the fans. I hope they enjoyed it. You know, the first stint, I think everybody was just sort of settling in and finding what sort of speed they had and where they had it. I knew my first stint in the car that we had speed because we were able to catch a few cars in front. But again, catching's one thing, getting by is another, and I just couldn't overtake them. So we decided to try to undercut them and sort of stop early for the final stop. And then I was just super aggressive on the restart. We made up 4 spots. Sort of that inherited the lead. I saw Bleekemolen in the Mercedes. They were really strong today. We were really fast at the beginning of the stint, but struggled with the rear tire. And I think we have to be second. We're disappointed with it, but that's a good thing. We're competitors. So thank you, 3GT Racing and Lexus.
Still, congratulations on a strong finish. Justin?
Well, is there a happy smiley face somewhere in there? That was a tough race, tough to come second in.
No, not. I mean, you can smile a little bit, but it's obviously disappointing. We led the whole race. We were on top of strategy and everything. Ringer had a perfect stint, saved fuel, just to make it to the end. So we felt like we were in good position, but you know, things out of our control. And same as Watkins Glen, where we led the last restart and just got passed on the straight. So I was trying to push enough to get a gap out of 5, but I guess 5 car lengths wasn't enough this time.
Both of you did superhuman stints. He ran really well. You enjoyed it. I spoke to you in the middle of the race, Ranger. I mean, tough to come second, but great for points.
No, that's the thing, right? I mean, I'm a happy boy always, so kind of very disappointed as well right now. But when we're out there with the podium, spraying champagne, it's always good. But it's good for the points. We feel a little robbed here, but I think we will have our shot at the win.
Well said, guys.
Grand Prix.
There's some congratulations going around, Andy Lally. You got in and you fought hard for this podium result. After the work that the team put in, how important was this to you?
This was huge. This has been a really tough start to 2018, but I got to give a big thanks to the crew who turned this car around after mechanical failure in practice, engineering for putting a car under me that halfway through the stint when everybody's tires were falling off, we were coming on, and that's how we were able to get through these guys at the end of the stint. We picked off 2, 3, 4 good, strong contenders to get on the podium for the first time. John had an awesome opening stint, and just big thanks to Magnus Racing and Audi for a good car, because this is a fun place. People say you can't pass here, but you can scrap here pretty good.
Yeah, you made it clear that you can. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, Jordan Taylor and Ringer van de Zande were really talking about kind of the split personality of racing, weren't they? Disappointed that they didn't win, but it is good in points for a championship.
Yeah, I mean, in the moment, it's the wins that you want. The championship's big picture, so they feel like they got kind of punched in the gut, but they'll come back and bring it hard next race.
And they've had a big drought, Brian. I mean, that makes it extra hard to take.
Yeah, it's just another race that goes in the books where they haven't won. We said it since Detroit last year. Great run here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Always love to come here. Thanks to Justin Bell, Jamie Howe, Tommy Kendall, Calvin Fish. Wait until next round. Iconic racetracks as we head into the middle part of the season. Make sure you don't miss a lap.